come from overseas. He also says it's too early to know if the tariff could mean shortages of some prescription medications. As we take a look at the markets right now, the Dow is currently down almost 3% at 40,961. NASDAQ's down almost 5%, and the S&P's off more than 3.5% here on your lunch hour. All right, you may need the air conditioning this afternoon. Highs around 86 degrees. That's about 15 degrees above normal for this time of the year.
It's even hotter tomorrow, high 88. That'll break the record high for tomorrow afternoon.
WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards says some communities could hit 90 degrees come Saturday. She'll have Atlanta Radio's only 5-day forecast coming up at 12:05. Speaking of the tariffs, Stellantis temporarily laying off 900 workers in response to President Trump's tariff announcement. The layoffs will impact workers at 5 of the automaker's U.S. facilities. The company also announcing that it will be pausing production of 2 of its plants in Canada and Mexico. In a letter to employees, the company saying it's assessing the effects of the tariffs on operations. Automakers are now facing a 25% import tax. Ford announcing a new program called From America for America. From now through June 2nd, Ford's going to be offering employee pricing to everybody on most Ford vehicles. That means customers will pay the same amount as Ford workers, which is below the dealer invoice price. Ford saying, quote, uncertain times and complexities of a changing economy, the reason they're offering this deal. It is getting more expensive for you to raise your kids. A new Lending Tree survey today puts the total cost of raising one child at about $300,000 over 18 years. That's up 25% over the last 2 years. The increase mostly due to more expensive child care, insurance, and food. Now, Georgia is cheaper than most other states in the country, coming in at number 45 on this survey. It costs just over $19,000 a year to raise a child here in Georgia. And more Americans say they are now worried about financial issues. A new Gallup poll today shows that a majority of Americans have a great deal of worry about money. That includes 6 in 10 who say they worry about the economy, a similar number who are concerned about health care affordability, inflation, and federal spending. About half of the people surveyed said that they are worried about homelessness and hunger, 48% saying they're concerned about wealth and income distribution in our nation. Metro Atlanta sees job growth in its new report this morning from the Georgia Department of Labor.
Atlanta ends February with just shy of 3,100,000 jobs. That's up 13,700 month over month. Over the month, the jobs were up most in private education services. Jobs were down most in transportation and warehousing. The unemployment rate stands at 3.6%. The state labor department says Georgia continues to prove itself as the #1 place where businesses and talent thrive. Cheryl Castro, 95.5 WSB.
And as you start to think about your summer vacation plans to the beach, June 1st is the start of the traditional hurricane season in the Atlantic. In Colorado, they're already trying to predict the number of hurricanes and the severity. Phil Klotzbach is an atmospheric research scientist at Colorado State.
Not as busy as what we saw last year. So, for example, this year we're forecasting 9 hurricanes and 4 major hurricanes. Last year had 11 hurricanes and 5 major hurricanes. But we are forecasting more than a normal season, which is 7 hurricanes and 3 major.
He is predicting a total of 17 named storms this year. All right, it's time now for live team coverage of traffic and weather. Alex Williams in the WSB 24-hour Traffic Center with a look at your lunchtime roads.
Checking on new trouble in Sandy Springs, Sabrina, 285 westbound, the outer loop, new Northside Drive, Powers Ferry Road, exit number 22. I believe it's in the right center lane, but already jammed up back before Riverside Drive, so heads up for those delays heading over to Cobb County in the Truist Park region. On 400 southbound, you're slow if you're heading out of Buckhead into Midtown for the lunch hour due to that left lane construction on the 400 southbound ramp to I-85 southbound, and the left lane construction continues both ways in the cab, 285 both north and southbound, right around Covington Highway, exit number 43. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
It's time now for Atlanta Radio's only 5-day forecast, sponsored by Shoemate, the official air conditioning of Atlanta. Here's WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards.
A mix of sun and clouds for today, high 86. That's trending 15 degrees above average for this afternoon. Lows tonight in the mid-60s. Even hotter for tomorrow, high 88. That'll break the record high for tomorrow afternoon. Saturday, partly cloudy, highs in the upper 80s to low 90s. But a cold front rolling through on Sunday will cool us down to a high of 74. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms for Sunday. Monday, cloudy with off and on rain showers, high 65.
77 degrees in Duluth. It's 76 in Tucker and Powder Springs. We'll have more news at 12:30. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Well, don't look at your 401k right now. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get all the links for the podcast, show notes, all that stuff. More importantly, you should text data to 33777. Here's why. The show notes. Because the show notes will be coming out, and all the links to everything I'm talking about are in there. There's a lot of data in the show notes today about the economic ramifications of tariffs and stuff. Now, listen, let's be clear here out of the gate. I'm going to try to do something some of you will like, some of you won't like. Instead of just going off on tariffs, I don't think tariffs are a good idea. I at least want to try to, as objectively as someone with biases can, explain what's actually happening. Let's do the analysis before we do anything else. And the first thing, to understand where Donald Trump started and his starting point on tariffs, is to understand what a trade deficit is. When I was growing up, I would read the newspaper. As a kid, yes, I was a nerd, and I would hear trade deficit. We had a trade deficit with Mexico at the time. We had a trade deficit with Japan. The trade deficit must be bad. Once I got into college and had to take economics classes, realized actually a trade deficit is a term. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a term. What is a trade deficit? You hear deficit like you think the federal deficit, that's bad. So you hear trade deficit, you think that's bad. This is actually just it's a basic term in economics. It is neither a good thing nor a bad thing, although it tends to be good. Let me explain. Trade deficits come about when your country imports more from a country than they import from you. So, for example, we have a trade deficit with Vietnam. The Vietnamese, even the wealthy Vietnamese, are poor compared to us. You need to understand this, the poorest Americans are actually wealthier than about 75 to 80% of the planet. We think about poor Americans. You go to Appalachia, you go to a American Indian reservation, you see poor Americans. We think that is poverty. And then you compare it to poverty on planet Earth. It's actually not as bad as you think it is. It's not good, but it's not as bad as you think it is. A poor American can buy more from Vietnam than a wealthy Vietnamese can buy from the United States. So we have a trade deficit with Vietnam. The things we make, we have higher labor costs. We have a higher quality of life. We have higher regulatory burdens. So to make a good in the United States is more expensive than to make a good in Vietnam. So poor Americans are wealthier than wealthy Vietnamese. So poor Americans can buy more Vietnamese stuff than a wealthy Vietnamese person can buy from the United States. So we buy more from them than they buy from us. That's a trade deficit. Now, oddly enough, we have a trade surplus with Australia. Australia is a wealthy nation, but not as wealthy as us. But Australia, if you've ever been to Australia, has more of a limited manufacturing base than we do. So Australia buys a lot of American vehicles. Australia buys a lot of American airplanes. Australia buys a lot of Harley Davidsons. Australia buys a lot of GM, Ford, Stellantis vehicles, many of which are actually made in this country and sent there. Yeah, they got Subaru, but that's about it. So major manufacturing. Actually, we have a trade surplus with Australia. We sell more to them than they sell to us. A trade deficit typically comes about, and I mentioned Australia because it's a little bit of difference here. A trade deficit comes about when a wealthy nation buys a lot of stuff from a poor country. The poor country can't afford to buy as much stuff from the wealthy nation. So wealthy nations tend to run trade deficits with poor countries. Australia is poorer than us. We actually are the wealthiest country on the planet. And even our poor are wealthier than most of the poor people and even some of the middle-class people around the world. We run this trade surplus with Australia because Australia doesn't make the things that we do make that Australia needs. But almost all the cases, Europeans have trade deficits with Southeast Asian countries. The United States has trade deficits with Southeast Asian countries. Australia has trade deficits with Southeast Asian countries. And again, you hear deficit, you think bad. It actually isn't bad. It just means that we're so rich, we can buy a whole lot more of their cheap stuff than they can buy of even our cheap stuff. That's all it is it's a documentation of a trade imbalance. And the trade imbalance is actually a sign of our wealth. Because we are so wealthy as a nation, we can buy so much of other people's stuff. We tend to have imbalanced trade with these other countries, and we tend to have the trade deficit. Now, here's the problem. Is as long as he's been in business, Donald Trump has done what I used to do, and that hear the word deficit, think this is bad. They must be taking advantage of us. It's actually not a sign that a poor country is taking advantage of us. It's a sign that you can make a good cheaper in their country than in our country, so we can buy more of their stuff than they can buy of our stuff. That's all a trade deficit is. But Donald Trump seems to have it in his head that this is bad. So yesterday at the White House, when he released his tariff package, he produced a list of every country on the planet and what the tariff is from that country. So Vietnam is the great example. He says Vietnam has a 90% tariff on U.S. goods. Vietnam does not have a 90% tariff on us. And I want to be real clear here that the numbers, in fact, I saw someone on Twitter, he came after me and he said, what some of these countries have 50% tariffs on us, Erickson. What's wrong with us having a 50% tariff on the people who have 50% tariff on us? Because they don't. I know that's what the Council of Economic Advisors is telling you, and some of you wish to believe it, but it's actually not only not true, they used a formula that no economist uses other than these guys came up with this. There literally is the formula that they used makes no sense. So here's what they did. To figure out what they're calling the tariff from Vietnam, they took our trade deficit with Vietnam, which is $123.5 billion. $123.5 billion. That's Vietnam's, that's our trade deficit with Vietnam. So Vietnam exports to the United States $136.6 billion. We export to Vietnam. Let me pull up my calculator here. I thought I had it written down and I don't. So 136.6 minus 123.5. So we export to Vietnam $13.1 billion. In other words, we buy, as a nation, we're so much richer than Vietnam, we buy $123.5 billion more dollars per year from the Vietnamese than they buy from us. So what Donald Trump's team did is they put this formula together. The trade deficit, which is $123.5 billion, divided by the total amount of exports from Vietnam, 136.6. They multiplied it by 100, they get 90. So what they're saying on their chart is that Vietnam has a 90% tariff on the United States. That's not really true. What Vietnam has is a trade surplus against us. We have a trade deficit against them. It's the entire chart through that the Trump team uses for tariffs isn't actually true. And I do need you to understand that. And yes, I am calling them out on this because it actually is a lie to say, for example, the European Union has a 39% tariff on us. That's not actually true. What it is that the European Union actually, essentially, the European Union exports to the United States about 39% more than we export to them. Vietnam exports to us about 90% more than we export to them. That's all it is. And the Trump team is saying this is a tariff on the United States because Donald Trump himself profoundly misunderstands what a trade deficit is. He thinks it's a bad thing, and it's really not. Now, the wild thing about the chart overall you need to understand is that there are places on the chart that are listed as being impacted by the tariff that don't even have people. So Heard and McDonald Islands, according to Donald Trump, they have a 10% tariff on our goods. So we're going to impose a 10% tariff on them. Heard and McDonald Islands don't have people. Heard and McDonald Islands have penguins. Now, this is actually kind of funny. You can laugh about it, but it actually is very serious. It makes you wonder who advised the president on this, that they're listing Heard and McDonald Island as now islands that will have an American tariff imposed on them on so-called Liberation Day, because literally there's not a soul on those islands. You can go tour those islands if you want. They're in the Indian Ocean. They are controlled by Australia, and they're uninhabited. They are penguin safe havens. Yeah, I'm not making that up. They're penguin safe havens, and people aren't allowed to live on those islands. So a lot of people are saying, why are we adding herd in McDonald Island to tariffs when there are no one there? Or Jan Mayen Island. Jan Mayen Island is actually in the North Sea off the coast of Norway. 17 people live on that island. They are a combined team of American and Norwegian researchers. They're scientists that don't actually have an industrial base in Jan Mayen Island, which, according to this list, has a 10% tariff on American goods. It simply doesn't have any industrial base to sell us anything. Now, if you want a larger perspective on this, when you look at Donald Trump's list, and there's a familiar pattern here, for example, he says Vietnam has a 90% tariff on us. South Korea has a 50% tariff on us. Japan has a 46% tariff. Taiwan has a 64% tariff. Pakistan has a 58% tariff. Laos has a 95% tariff. What's actually going on here is, again, these are very poor countries that manufacture a lot of things for Walmart, for Target, for other companies. They import them into this country and they sell them to you for cheap because it's cheaper to build the products there than here. That's what's actually happening with the tariffs. But so the president has decided across the board 10% tariff to start with, and then he will mark up tariffs everywhere else. So like Vietnam, he's going to impose a 46% tariff on Vietnam, claiming they have a 90% tariff on us, which isn't true. The 46% tariff on Vietnam is designed to get American manufacturers to move their manufacturing back to the United States from Vietnam. Now, there's a little bit of a problem with this. Let's talk about oil companies for a second. So oil companies, you would think, would be making major investments in the country right now because Donald Trump is president, except they're not. The reason is not because of Donald Trump, not because of tariffs. It's because it can take for an oil manufacturer to begin exploration, drilling, development, and production of oil. It can take up to 20 years to actually return an investment for investors. Because oil companies aren't sure which way the winds are going to blow in the United States over the next 20 years, they're slow walking new development because a Democrat could get back into office and try to shut them down again. Now, let's take a manufacturer who's moved their economic base to Vietnam to produce goods for Americans cheaply. Nike is a prime example of this. Nike has moved a lot of its manufacturing out of China into Vietnam so that they're not using slave labor and they're not relying on the communist Chinese. Instead, the communist Vietnamese, who are actually more pro-American than you might realize. They don't like the Chinese. So if Nike were to shut down Vietnam and move back to the United States, it's going to take 4 to 5 years for them to build a facility here. You got to plan it, you got to zone it, you got to get certifications, then you build it. Then you got to train the workforce. By then, Donald Trump is gone. There's a new president. Maybe the tariffs go away. Or maybe Donald Trump next year decides to get rid of the tariffs. Why pour a lot of research and development into new facilities in the United States when in next year, 4 years from now, the tariffs might go away? There's an opportunity cost. There's an opportunity loss. There is a shareholder investment that has to be made. And so a lot of these companies, they don't have a clear path ahead, and that's somewhat problematic for where the president wants to go. His intent is to stimulate American production. And essentially what Donald Trump wants to do is to build a trade wall around the United States. If you trade inside the United States, you're going to get the best, beautiful deals possible. If you're trading across country lines, you're going to get slammed with tariffs. This is designed to bring a lot of companies into the United States. He's well-intentioned, trying to bring a lot of companies into the United States. The problem is there's still so much uncertainty, and there's an election in 2 years or a year and a half for the midterms, and then 3 years for the presidency, 3.5 years. That could change the dynamic. So if a company that might take 5 to 6 years to build the investment here suddenly no longer needs to build the investment here in 3 to 4 years, they may not actually do what Donald Trump wants them to do today. They may be gambling on the uncertainty, which might actually have negative political ramifications for Donald Trump. There are political ramifications that you have to examine for this, but that's the president's intention. You do need to understand, though, that part of the basis here is a misunderstanding of what a trade deficit is.
Have something to say?
Hello,
Show. 1-877-97-ERIC. That's 1-877-973-7425.
1221 Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Travel advisory in Sandy Springs. Got a crash, 285 westbound, the outer loop. Northside Drive, Powers Ferry Road, exit number 22. 3 right lanes are blocked. That is jam the ride leaving Georgia 400. Make your way southbound. Take 85 south to 400 north to avoid that. Elsewhere in DeKalb County, one crash cleared and another one has happened. It's in the right lane, 285 northbound, the outer loop at I-20, exit 46, delays there. And don't forget about the left lane construction, also in DeKalb, both directions, 285 north and southbound, right around Covington Highway, exit number 43. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
Everyone has an opinion.
We have become an idiotic nation that doesn't know how to even debate anything, so it doesn't surprise
Eric Von Hessler has an opinion.
You will still age.
And some advice.
Start doing things when you're younger. Drink a lot of water.
Eric Von Hessler, today at 3.
And you will still die.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
I'm thrilled with my Infinity from Marvin Fiberglass Windows. Hi, it's meteorologist Glenn Burns, inviting you to North Georgia Replacement Windows' brand new Alpharetta showroom. I was blown away. Bring your window and door project to life here. See the fiberglass difference in person. Your stress-free experience includes a quick, accurate proposal, no pressure. Window and door shopping made simple.
Infinity from Marvin, replacement windows, yeah!
I'm here with Chris Hoffman, the founder of Hoffman Financial Group, to discuss one of the biggest blind spots that people face when saving for retirement, and it's a head scratcher. Chris, how do so many people not know what they're invested in?
That's the biggest flaw that everybody runs into. They think they know what equities they have, they think they know what bonds they have, but they really don't know how those mutual funds or how those index funds are performing in conjunction with one another. So, I would liken this to a big pot of soup, and we're just throwing all the ingredients in the refrigerator in this thing. It's not very good. It's just a mishmash of stuff. And sometimes you like the way it tastes. Sometimes you don't. And when you don't know why. You don't know if you got too much chicken in there or too much vegetables in there or what's going on. And I ask every caller that comes in for an initial consultation, do you know how your portfolio is broken down? And they say, well, I've got, 20 or so options in my 401k, and I just picked 2 of them or 3 of them. I thought I needed some international. I thought I needed some U.S. equities. I thought I needed some bonds. And they're just guessing. So you have to absolutely know what you're invested in, and that's where we will run the 401k portfolio x-ray for you, because that'll break it down. If you're not proficient at investing and don't understand this world, we will walk you through it. Not knowing what you're invested in is a big hindrance to growing and protecting your money. We will run a portfolio x-ray for you and educate you on exactly what's in your portfolio.
Set up a time to get your complimentary portfolio x-ray today. Call the Hoffman Financial Group at 404-737-3858. That's 404-737-3858, or book online at unleashyourmoney.com. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Hoffman Financial Group Incorporated, Georgia Insurance License number 163. 546.
This is Scott Slade, and this is my health story. I get a checkup every year, and last September, my primary care physician was troubled by a suspicious number of my lab work. I'll never forget his words, "I want somebody looking over my shoulder on this." Well, that led to a diagnosis early enough to give me options and optimism for a good outcome. When we're talking about our health, we shouldn't be shy. I think it's important to talk about what can kill you or rob you of your quality of life. Heart disease is still the nation's #1 killer. And what I think should be right up there with it, procrastination. We all need expert eyes looking us over every so often to spot problems while we still have options to deal with them. And that's where virtual imaging comes in. They've got the best CT imaging in the Southeast with 98% accuracy and low radiation, like flying in an airplane. They can detect calcium levels in your arteries and most cancers at the earliest stage. And virtual imaging can scan your brain to see if you're in danger of a tumor, stroke, or even dementia. I am living proof that preventive medicine can save lives. So don't put this off, especially with this offer from Virtual Imaging. For a limited time, they're offering you and your spouse a free heart scan. Yes, free, with a few minimum requirements. I've done it. Call 404-678-SCAN. That's 404-678-SCAN. or make an appointment by visiting their website at virtualimagingatl.com. Do it now while you still have options.
All the news, weather, and traffic you need. 95.5 WSB.
You can be live on Eric's show by calling 877-97-ERIC. That's 877-973-7425.
Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the show, I'm trying to explain the reason for the tariffs, the logic behind it. I will play you when we come back some of President Trump's own words as he talks about it. Let me just give you perspective on this. This is objectively true. This isn't my opinion. This is a fact that if the baseline actually is 10% across the board tariffs on imports, that will be higher than any developed country on the planet has. Our baseline right now is about 1.73%. We would take it up to 10%. That puts us in the range of third world African hellholes. There are a number of African third world undeveloped nations that have 10% tariffs. Kenya actually has a 9% tariff, but a lot of worse countries than Kenya have 10% or higher. No developed nation on the planet actually has a tariff as high as what the U.S. would have. South Korea is the highest of developed nations. South Korea has an 8% tariff. Now, Donald Trump says their tariff is much higher on us. Here's the thing, though. We have a free trade agreement with South Korea, and 90% of all goods from the United States to South Korea have a 0% tariff placed on them. The other 10% have a tariff no higher than 0.79%. Switzerland's another example where we're slamming the Swiss for a tariff that they supposedly have in the country, but we have a free trade agreement with Switzerland. 99% of all goods we ship to Switzerland do not get a tariff placed on them because we have a free trade deal with Switzerland. So I don't know where the White House came up with these numbers. We will find out at some point, I guess. Now, let me tell you, with all the everything else happening out there right now, we've got to worry about the economy. We got to worry about common sense conservative solutions. We got to worry about where the country heads, and Americans for Prosperity is greatly concerned about where the country heads, and they'd love to have you on their side. If you go to americansforprosperity.org today, you can sign up and be a part of advancing freedom in this country for small businesses, for families. They fight for school choice. They fight for common sense conservative solutions. They're fighting for the president's tax cuts. They'd love to have you on their team. If you go to americansforprosperity.org today, you can learn about what AFP does. They've got chapters in virtually every state. They're the largest and leading grassroots organization in the world, or in the country at least. They'd love to have you on their side. Americansforprosperity.org is the website. I'm on their advisory board. I'm doing an event for them next week. They're great people. Americansforprosperity.org. Sign up with AFP today. Be an effective conservative advocate.
Live from the Superior Plumbing Studios.
News,
weather,
traffic.
95.5 WSB.
Atlanta's News and Talk.
It is 12:30. Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Cupid. Prices on pretty much everything from clothing to cars likely to rise following President Trump's tariffs. Karen Travers has more from Washington. She says the administration's saying they're looking at the long-term goal.
That's the message from the White House. You know, short-term pain for long-term gain. We've heard the president talk about short-term disturbances from his tariff policy. The question, though, of course, is how long will those short-term disturbances last, and how bad will it be for American consumers when they get hit with these price increases in the near future?
And new this afternoon, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says his country will impose counter-auto tariffs in response to President Trump's announcement. Carney saying the impact of tariffs announced by Trump will be felt around the world. He added the global economy is now fundamentally different today than it was yesterday. He also said previously announced retaliatory tariffs will remain in effect. He said he doesn't believe the President Trump will change direction until the pain felt by Americans due to the tariffs will be so hard to ignore. Let's take a look at the markets. The Dow right now is down 2.5%, more than 2.5%. NASDAQ is down almost 4.5%, and the S&P is down almost 3.5%. Your weather for this afternoon, it's going to be warm, headed for a high of 86 under partly cloudy skies. We'll have Atlanta's most accurate and dependable forecast coming up in just a matter of minutes. A Conyers man has been sentenced to life in prison without parole for shooting his girlfriend and killing a man who was trying to help her. The sentence comes after a jury in DeKalb County convicts 54-year-old Clinton Johnson in the shooting in November of 2020. The woman he shot told police that her boyfriend had shot her. Johnson killed 30-year-old Rico Weatherly, who was helping the woman look for a new place to live. And Zelle has now officially shut down its standalone app. The digital banking app has 150 million customers in the U.S. and is now no longer allowing users to make payments through that standalone app. The company initially warned users that their app was shutting down in its payment services last year. Zelle started back in 2017 with the backing of 30 banks operating in the U.S., including Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo. It's 12:32.
Bugs bugging you? Better call Breda Pest Management. They handle bugs and critters. And Breda is proud to sponsor Scott Slades, Georgia, every Thursday on Atlanta's Morning News.
Breda, no need to be afraid of bugs.
Guys, if you're having ED or performance issues and Viagra and Cialis haven't worked, you need to come see Choice Men's Health. Give us a call or visit us online at choicemenshealth.com. Get your love life back and choose Choice Men's Health.
Multiple contractors and estimates for your home projects? What a hassle. Instead, trust the Plus. Painting Plus.
Hi, I'm Charlie, owner of Painting Plus and the Plus family of businesses. We're reliable, fully licensed, and insured. No muss, no fuss. Trust the Plus and leave everything on your list to us.
If your home's exterior has it, the Plus can improve it. Painting Plus. Siding, gutters, windows, decks, porches, roofing, and more. Trust the Plus. PaintingPlus.com.
There's a new optimism in the air, and we think investors like you might have the best year ever. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. Last year, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Everyday folks from all walks of life have enjoyed 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of small businesses right here at home. If you're a qualified investor and have a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest rates. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. We believe this is going to be a special year and a great year. We've got the projects. Now we need partners like you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. Purchasers must verify their SEC accredited investor status. Securities are not being offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
Thanks for calling Reliable Heating and Air.
Hi, my AC just died and I live in Perry, Georgia. Do you come out this far?
Yep. We have over 300 techs all over the Macon, Atlanta, and Athens area, and we can fix it fast.
Great. Replacing it's going to be super expensive, right?
How does $69.99 a month sound?
Wow.
Get any size air conditioner from Reliable for only $69.99 a month with zero down, our lifetime warranty, and guaranteed next day installation, or we pay you $500. Go to ReliableAir.com.
All right, live team coverage of traffic and weather. Alex Williams.
Travel advisory 285 westbound, the outer loop, Northside Drive, Powers Ferry, exit 22 in Sandy Springs. Crash still on a couple of right lanes, slow from 400. Take 85 south to 75 north as an alternate. And a crash still in the right lane into Cab, 285 northbound, the outer loop at I-20, exit 46. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Upwards. Partly cloudy, hot and humid today, high 86.
79 degrees. More news at 1 o'clock. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
Smart, fearless, and occasionally funny. You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show.
Greetings, welcome. Happy to take your phone calls, 877-973-7425. Be patient with me here. I actually want to get to some of President Trump's audio so you can hear him in his own words. Yesterday, the president announced the tariffs, and I've got to tell you, I have a lot of people who like to tell me they keep track of all the times I'm wrong. I do too, and I try to tell you when I was wrong, and yesterday I was wrong. I concluded the program yesterday saying I suspected the tariffs wouldn't be as big a deal as people expected, and the markets would react well. I was completely wrong. The markets are just absolutely nosediving today. Everything is nosedive. And American markets are actually performing worse than the global markets, which suggests investors think that our economy is going to be hit worse by the tariffs than everyone else. Whether you think we're going to be hurt or not, that's what the markets are suggesting. But Donald Trump himself thinks they're a good thing.
Well, we have some very, very good news today, and a lot of good things are happening for our country. Please sit down. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. Going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steel workers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen.
That's the president speaking at the White House, proclaiming his economic independence and day of liberation.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple, can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before.
President Trump at the White House. Now, here's what Scott Bessent told Caitlin Collins on CNN last night about these.
We're looking at this, on China, for example, some of the nations, there's a baseline 10% tariff, and there's a reciprocal tariff. China has this 34% tariff. There were already 20% tariffs in place on China. So is that 34% on top of that, meaning it's a 54% reciprocal tariff on China?
I believe it is.
Okay. And so when you look at that on the reciprocal tariffs, as these are going to an effect, I imagine some of these countries are going to call and try to negotiate this. Is that an option for these countries over the next few days, or what is the White House's mindset on that?
Well, I think the mindset is let's just see where we are, and then we'll see how President Trump feels about all this.
Okay, so it's essentially up to President Trump if he's in the mood to negotiate with some of these countries.
Well, I mean, it's not the mood. It's the how are we seeing things? I think the real thing is going to be, and that he's going to gauge the tariff level by, it won't be necessarily the calls from the leaders, it's going to be the calls from industry saying, okay, how can we get these off? And he's going to say, you can get it off, bring your factory to the U.S.
Now, you should understand that part of what's happening today with the markets is there's an assumption that this is a negotiation tactic. Many of you, in fact, I think this is a negotiation tactic. The White House says this is not a negotiation. We're going with a baseline of 10% tariffs for everybody, and then so-called reciprocal tariffs that actually aren't based on what the tariff rate of the other country is, but based on their trade deficit with us, which is, again, an odd calculation. As Scott Bessent is suggesting, though, that there might be some transition out of the tariffs.
And if the point of this ultimately is to get people to buy more U.S.-made products, but you are counting on that revenue, as we've seen some of your colleagues like Peter Navarro arguing how much money this could bring into the United States. In the end, wouldn't that theoretically dwindle over time if people are buying more U.S. and there's less money coming in from what's being imported into the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's why in the past I've called tariff policy done properly as a shrinking ice cube, because what will happen, we will start out with high tariff income, but then as the factories come to the U.S., we will have more business income and we'll have more paycheck income because American workers will be earning. So you would see it's a rebalancing. So we rebalance away from tariffs to more domestic income.
And one more from Peter Navarro, who was on Fox News with Jesse Waters.
But here's what's really important, Jesse. As bad as the higher tariffs are that these countries around the world charge us, the non-tariff barriers are worse. The non-tariff barrier, currency manipulation, the VAT tax distortions, export subsidies, dumping, counterfeiting and piracy, IP theft. It goes on and on and on. And that kind of thing is going to be very, very hard for our foreign nations cheating us to get rid of overnight. This is not a negotiation, Jesse. This is a national emergency associated with chronic and massive trade deficits that are brought about by higher tariffs and higher non-tariff barriers that take our jobs, that take our factories, that lead to massive trade deficits that result in massive transfers of wealth into foreign hands that jeopardize our manufacturing base and defense industrial base. So no, this is not a negotiation. It's a national emergency. And the president is treating it as such.
Now, if you want the spin on this from, well, the business community, this is how CNBC covered the tariffs.
And the market reaction after hours, I've never seen anything like it. This, I think fair to say, is worse than the worst case scenario of the tariffs that many in the market expected the president to impose. You laid out a number of the percentages there. And there's some question of how the administration calculated the percentages that they're responding to in each of these cases. Are they adding in value-added taxes? He talked about, non-tariff barriers as well. So I think while many were hoping that this would eliminate uncertainty, there's going to be more uncertainty in the market. And from those watching policy tomorrow on, if countries push back on how these non-tariff barriers were calculated, will there be wiggle room here? Exactly when do these go into effect? How quickly are companies going to have to adjust their pricing? So many questions.
Yeah, and just for perspective, right now, just so we have a timestamp, it's 12:44 p.m. Eastern time when I'm talking today, and about $2.5 trillion has been wiped out of 401ks today with the tariff. That's the math. It's not my opinion. That's the math. Great time to buy stocks, though. I mean, Apple is taking a beating today. Great time to buy Apple stock. But so now you have a sense of this is why Donald Trump did it. This is what they believe. Whether you or I agree with them, and I don't, I actually think they're wrong on this. You at least understand that they actually do believe that countries have taken advantage of us. And a lot of it is a profound misunderstanding of what the trade deficit is. We are, just think about this for a minute. Even if you agree with them, our manufacturing base, everything else wiped out. We're the wealthiest nation on the planet. You may not feel particularly wealthy. I don't feel particularly wealthy, but you go travel abroad, we're the wealthiest country. We don't manufacture T-shirts or a lot of steel in this country anymore, but we manufacture intellectual property, we manufacture advanced weapons systems, we manufacture airplanes, we manufacture more complicated stuff, and the countries we're buying from manufacture the cheap stuff we used to manufacture. Essentially, the way manufacturing works in this country now is that we send all the cheap stuff out to be made elsewhere so that we make the more complex stuff. But there are a lot of people who saw a lot of other Americans making a lot of money and building a lot of wealth, and they were left out, and this is kind of payback to a degree. It's almost revenge politics, it seems to me. But Donald Trump believes we need to repatriate the T-shirt manufacturers, and we need to repatriate the steel companies and we need to repatriate the auto companies, and we need to repatriate the shoe manufacturers and stuff to this country. There are some things that inarguably I think we do. We need to be making our own pharmaceuticals. It's a national security issue. We need to be making our own microchips. It's a national security issue. We need to be making our own computers. It's a national security issue. Our own weapons systems, which we actually do a good part of, but it's a national security issue. But we should be able to separate those from manufacturing our underwear and pants and T-shirts and basic foods. There is one caveat here you need to know about. One, these could still be revised. And two, there's a major change Donald Trump needs to make that you might not be aware of. He did not exempt groceries. So, coffee beans. You may be an instant coffee person in your house, a Keurig person, a Maxwell House person, a Folgers Crystal person. They get their coffee beans not from this country. We're not a subtropical or tropical country, so we don't grow coffee beans. You could take over all of Hawaii and you wouldn't be able to grow enough beans to satisfy the American demand for coffee, and coffee is going to be tariffed. We don't have any warm lands available to grow massive banana plantations in this country. Bananas that you feed your kid are going to be tariffed. Pineapples, tariffed. Kiwis, tariffed. A lot of apples imported from other countries going to be tariffed. All groceries imported from other countries are going to be tariffed. And you may not have a problem with that, but is your neighbor going to have a problem with it? And this is the bottom line problem for the Trump administration. The bottom line problem is, if something happens to the economy, and hypothetically it's not the tariffs' fault, the tariffs are the only major change that Donald Trump has implemented from Joe Biden at the moment, and so the tariffs will be blamed for if something bad happens to the economy, because that's how Americans will process it. Donald Trump came in and imposed tariffs. All the talking heads on TV said it would hurt the economy. The economy's hurt, therefore it must be Donald Trump, even if it's not him. That's how it's going to be. And Donald Trump has said repeatedly, including yesterday, that Americans need to suffer some short-term pain for long-term gain, which to a lot of people sounds like Joe Biden saying inflation was transitory at a time to correct the economy. The Republicans are playing with fire here just because, again, and not in my opinion, y'all know I don't like the tariffs. I'm trying to be as fair as I can here. If there's any economic change in the country for the negative, since this is the big economic issue that Donald Trump has pushed, he's going to get blamed for it, whether he deserves it or not. And I'll be just as straight as shooter than, whoa, that's the wrong clip. This is Rand Paul talking about this very issue yesterday.
Tariffs have also led to political decimation. When McKinley most famously put tariffs on in 1890, they lost 50% of their seats in the next election. When Hod Smuley put on their tariff in the early 1930s, we lost the House and the Senate for 60 years. So they're not only bad economically, they're bad politically.
Your response to that?
Look, the fact is that President Trump has been saying that he supports tariffs because he has the intuition of what we talked about, how those incomes are not gaining because we're losing the jobs abroad. He's been saying that for 40 years.
Now, that's Kevin Hassett responding to Rand Paul, but Rand Paul's history is actually right. It is objectively the case that the Smoot-Hawley tariffs extended the Great Depression, and Donald Trump's tariffs actually impose a higher rate than the Smoot-Hawley tariffs did. So, again, the Trump administration argues that we're in the 21st century in an advanced economy. We're different from back in the 1930s. We're different from back in the early 1900s, that the economy can withstand tariffs and reprioritize at a safer rate. That's their argument. I think they're wrong, but that's their argument, and he's in charge. He gets the opportunity to make that case. But if something negative does happen to the economy, if we go into a recession, you may not blame him, but will your neighbor not blame him? Will your neighbor who now pays higher prices for bananas and coffee not blame him? Higher prices for beer as well because, well, we manufacture beer cans, but most beer cans are imported. So prices, grocery prices that haven't come down from Biden are now going to go up because of tariffs. Maybe they'll readjust over time. Economically, though, we know up front prices will go up, not as much as some people say. They're not going to go up 10%. They won't do that. Manufacturers will eat some of the profit before they impose all the tariff costs on people. But if something happens to the economy, this is the major economic change Donald Trump has made, so that's what's going to get blamed, whether he deserves it or not. and Republicans at least need to be prepared for that blame. Now, this is a good time to mention, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. I've been selling these for a while. I love them, and you can still get 3 of them for less than $200 and save $200 by going to EdenPureDeals.com. Put it in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3. They're air purifiers. They're filterless. You can plug it up with a USB cord. You can plug it into the wall. They kill bacteria and viruses. They eliminate all odors. So smoke odors, litter box odors, dirty diaper odors, cooking odors, musty odors, you name it. They wipe them out, and you get 3 of them. So upstairs, downstairs, your basement, they're so small. You can keep one in your travel bag, keep one in an RV. Wherever you need the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, they just work. They wipe out odors. You get 3 of them for less than $200. You save $200. All you do is go to EdenPureDeals.com, EdenPureDeals.com, and the discount code is ERIC3, ERICK, the number 3, no space, ERIC3 at EdenPureDeals.com.
Honest.
Putting your trust in me to tell you what's going on.
Transparent.
I need you to know this from the bottom of my heart.
Giving you the information without the noise.
My job isn't to tell you what you want to hear, it's to tell you the truth.
It's the Eric Erickson Show.
1252, Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Still working this crash in the right lane, 285 westbound, the outer loop, Northside Drive, Powers Ferry Road, exit 22. Some delays there in Sandy Springs. Elsewhere, we got a crash. It's in the right lane into Cobb County, 285 northbound, the outer loop at I-20, exit 46. Slow before Flat Shoals. And a left lane stall between Lithonia and Conyers, 20 eastbound, before Sigmund Road, exit 78, causing you brake lights as you leave Evans Mill Road. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
If it's happening on the streets of Atlanta.
After suspect refuses to exit home on Summer Chase Drive.
If it's happening on the roads leading to Atlanta.
Looks to be a tanker truck crashed into the median on the Jam Cam.
95.5 WSB has you covered.
The major culprits squeezing household budgets for auto insurance, gasoline, and utilities.
Your 24/7 news source. Tune in throughout the day to stay up to date.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's breaking news station.
I'm here with Chris Hoffman, the founder of Hoffman Financial Group and host of Money Unleashed. Chris, with all the things we're reading, seeing, and living through these days, from rate cuts, election season, and now a new administration, now seems like a great time to make sure we have that comprehensive plan in place. You know, the one that covers all our financial bases.
There are occasions throughout the year where I feel like it's critical for people to engage their financial lives and get the information that they deserve from a financial advisory team. And this is one of those times, to be quite frank. So we ask that you call us if you have a minimum of $500,000 in your full portfolio. But we're going to do away with that minimum so that those folks can have an equal opportunity to understand what's in their portfolio as well. Now, you have to have some money, right? I can't help you to build your wealth at work, right? But I sure can help, I believe, with your 401k, IRA management. There's probably 2 or 3 things that'll surprise you that you may want to take action on. So the next 10 people that call in will work up either a portfolio x-ray, or if you feel like you need a full retirement plan, go to unleashyourmoney.com, click on portfolio x-ray, or click on full retirement plan. We think you'll be impressed enough, and we want you to become a client. There's no question about it. We believe that we are a very competent fiduciary advisory team, and we want to offer that to our listeners. Let Hoffman Financial Group actually show you how we perform, and I believe we perform at the pinnacle of this industry.
Call the Hoffman Financial Group at 404-737-3858, 404-737-3858, or online at unleashyourmoney.com. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Hoffman Financial Group Incorporated, Georgia Insurance License number 163546.
Men, trouble in the bedroom? Not anymore. Priority Men's Medical Center restores your love life in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Priority Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Priority Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. You'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients get their testosterone checked free. Call 404-885-8885. 404-885-8885. To restore your love life in just one visit, call now. 404-885-8885.
WSB Atlanta, WSBB FM, and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Your non-stop news source. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
All the information without the spin. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
Hello, welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're looking to grow your business, you see opportunity, reach out to First Liberty, firstlibertyga.com. They help businesses across the nation. If you need $250,000 or more to get your business growing, reach out to them, firstlibertyga.com. Let me see if I can squeeze in JB here. Palm Coast, Florida. JB, we've got about a minute and a half, but I wanted to squeeze you in here. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for taking the call. These artificially manufactured numbers, you know, listening to that yesterday with the chart displayed, and these figures are popping up 90% here, 87% there. Eric, the whole thing lacked any intellectual integrity. I mean, it seemed like an assault on intelligence. It just didn't make sense. I'm not an economist, okay? But a more thoughtful presentation, a better explanation of things, maybe given by Commerce first, and then the Secretary Bessent. And you just played an excerpt from him in regards to how the world economy will be run on President Trump's mood, essentially. See how the president feels. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, and I'm so glad you've given it some clarity. Thank you.
Well, listen, JB, I appreciate that. And for those of you who don't understand what JB's talking about, the trade, the tariff number Trump says other countries are charging us, like he says Vietnam is charging us a 90% tariff. They're not actually charging us a 90% tariff. It's the trade deficit divided by total exports from Vietnam multiplied by 100 gives you the 90% tariff they're claiming. It's a trade deficit number, not a tariff number, which shows a misunderstanding of the way trade deficits actually work. And that's a problem for calculating these things moving forward. When we come back, what does our leadership of the world look like now?
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into. And that's Medi-Share. Maybe you've heard joining Medi-Share can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge. But it's also true, people are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. Medi-Share works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 855-51-BIBLE. That's 855-51-BIBLE. 855-51-BIBLE.
News, weather,
traffic.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Cupid. This news sponsored by Nelson Exteriors. New tariffs announced by the Trump administration are sending shockwaves through the stock market today as investors worry about a slowing economy. Tech stocks are reeling as many of those companies use foreign production for their components. Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady has more.
A lot of tech companies rely on production in China. Think about Apple and your iPhone. NVIDIA, a lot of the semiconductor chips that they are famous for that drive the AI revolution are made in Taiwan. And so tech is really going to take a hit unless they are able to reshore some of that production.
And President Trump announced a 10% baseline tariff on imports from all countries countries and higher tariff rates on dozens of nations that run trade surpluses with the United States. It is going to be very warm this afternoon, headed for a high of 86, says WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards. That's 15 degrees above average for this time of year.
But even hotter for tomorrow with a high of 88, and Saturday, high 89. A few of us may reach 90 degrees. Those would be record high temperatures for both tomorrow and Saturday.
She'll have Atlanta's most accurate and dependable forecast coming up. The new tariffs include a new 20% reciprocal tariff on goods imported from Europe, including wine and liquor. Ryan Hawkins manages a wine shop. He says the best he can do is to offer his customers different options.
Once you break it down and you show them nothing else we can do about it, we try to put you on something new, something you might like.
The president's also imposing a 25% tariff on all imported canned beer. A lot of generic prescription drugs come from overseas, so will the tariffs impact what you pay for those drugs? Ira Katz over at Little 5 Points Pharmacy here in Atlanta says it's too early to say, and I asked him if it could possibly mean shortages for some drugs because of it.
That's a very good question, and we just, again, don't know the answer to that. Back during early COVID, there were definite drug shortages, even a staple drug like amoxicillin.
He says most people have insurance or a prescription drug card, so you'll just pay your current copay, at least for now. All new this hour, with near constant cuts coming out of Washington, the head of DeKalb County announcing a spending freeze effective immediately.
DeKalb County's fiscal freeze includes a pause on creating new jobs and requiring every department to submit cost-saving plans.
I feel that is important, whether we face a recession or not.
CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson says uncertainty around federal funding plus recession fears drive this move to ensure resident services stay protected.
Let me be crystal clear. We are not eliminating services, and we are not laying off employees.
The CEO says this will not affect the already balanced budget plan to make DeKalb Police among Georgia's highest paid. In DeKalb County, Veronica Waters, 95.5 WSB.
It's 102.
Has your pest control company told you they won't be coming inside anymore and they raised their prices? Mark Aram here for my bug and critter company, Breda Pest Management. They protect the outside and inside of your home. It's the bugs inside you want gone. So if your pest company is doing less and charging more, you need Breda. Get started at BREDAPest.com.
Breda, no need to be afraid of bugs.
Just like your car, your septic system needs regular maintenance. Hi, I'm Shannon, the owner of Scorpion Septic. If you're seeing bubbles in your toilet, pooling in your yard, slow draining, or your toilet won't flush, you need Scorpion Septic.
Take the sting out of septic service with Scorpion Septic, where there is never a pump out charge with your repair. Call for more information. ScorpionSepticServices.com.
ScorpionSepticServices.com.
This is Scott Slade. Let's talk about how to improve your chances of living a longer, healthier life. For me, it's preventive medicine. My doctor saw one funky number in my lab work that eventually led to a diagnosis early enough so I still had options. You just got to have a medical professional looking at you every so often, especially when we're talking about heart disease, the nation's #1 killer. And that's where virtual imaging comes in. They've got the best CT imaging in the Southeast with 98% accuracy and low radiation, like flying in an airplane. They can detect calcium levels in your arteries and most cancers at the earliest stage. And virtual imaging can scan your brain to see if you're in danger of a tumor, stroke, or even dementia. So don't put this off, especially with this offer from virtual imaging. For a limited time, they're offering you and your spouse a free heart scan. Yes, free with a few minimum requirements. I've done it. Call 404-678-SCAN. That's 404-678-SCAN. Or make an appointment by visiting their website at virtualimagingatl.com.
Spring storms can dump a lot of rain in a short amount of time, flooding your crawl space and generating mold. Dry it out with American Crawl Space Solutions, your best value for crawl space repair.
American Crawl Space Solutions, foundations too.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us.
Dial #law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
All right, live team coverage of traffic and weather brought to you by American Crawl Space Solutions. Here's Alex Williams.
Travel advisory in DeKalb. Crash 2 right lanes, 285 northbound, the outer loop, I-20 exit 46. Jammed up from Boulder Crest Road, use 20 eastbound as an alternate. Left lane construction continues continues 285 north and south into Cab, right around Covington Highway, exit number 43. And still trying to clean up this crash in Sandy Springs, right lane block, 285 westbound, the outer loop, North Side Drive, exit number 22. That slows you back to Georgia 400. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Upwards. Partly cloudy today, high 86, lows tonight in the mid-60s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high 88. That'll break the record high for tomorrow afternoon. Saturday, a mix of sun and clouds, high 89.
All right, we have 80 degrees here in Midtown Atlanta, 78 in Woodstock, Johns Creek. You have 79 degrees. More news at 1:30, breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, be patient on the phones, please. I will get to your phone calls, but we got so much happening today with the tariffs, the fallout, so much more I want to get to. If you text data to 33777, subscribe to the show notes. You'll be able to keep up to speed on everything that's happening. It is show prep for your mind. It is my show prep for the show. So you get all the links to all the stuff we're talking about. One housekeeping note, won't be here tomorrow. College tour with my son. First college tour. He's checking out Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama tomorrow. Wants to be an architect. So he's got that and Auburn are the two big ones on his list for architecture programs. Georgia Tech people, yes, God bless you, I love you, but he doesn't want to go to school in Atlanta. So Auburn and Samford are the big picks right now. So I won't be here tomorrow, but I'll be back with you on Monday. I'll be Orlando broadcasting from WDBO on Tuesday, Wednesday next week. I want to talk to you about something a little esoteric, but it's very relevant to the tariffs. Very relevant to the tariffs. For just a moment, bear with me here. There is a method to my madness. Let's talk about divorce. Some of you, your parents got divorced. How did it make you feel if you were a kid when your parents got divorced? Some of you are parents who got divorced. You saw the effect on your kids. What was it like? I'm very fortunate. My parents are in their 80s, still together, headed to, near their 60th anniversary, I guess. My wife and I will this October be married 25 years. My wife's mom died when she was in first grade. Her dad remarried after that, and her parents have now been married for quite a long time. So my parents haven't been divorced, but I have friends whose parents were divorced, and I saw the fallout of those kids, and I knew I never wanted my parents to get divorced. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. There are some people who it's a sad situation. I've actually got a very dear friend of mine who his mother was just a horrible, horrible alcoholic and started cheating on her husband. And it was just a terrible thing, and she walked out in the middle of the night and left him. And the dad wasn't an extraordinary father, but certainly became one, having to keep his family together. And there are, like, my friend who that happened to says it was actually for the good that his mother left. And I've got friends who the same thing, the father left. But they're the exceptions. Overwhelmingly, it is a child whose parents divorced. They never want to go through it themselves. And you see it as someone from a family that there was no divorce. You can see it. Now, why do I bring that up relating to tariffs of all things? Erickson, what are you doing here? Because I want you to understand that there are things you yourself don't experience, but you can see the consequences of the actions of when it goes the other way. So your parents may not have gotten a divorce, but you know so many people whose parents did, and you see the ramifications of the divorce. You might have gone through the divorce, and you see the ramifications. We as a country are essentially setting up a policy here, for better or worse, that divorces us from a lot of the global supply chain and our leadership in the world. Donald Trump is essentially signaling we're done with American leadership of the world. We're going to leave the world behind, and we're going to take care of our people first. It will be America first. And my personal view here is that for the people who say, for example, we've been the piggy bank of the world, we've been taken advantage of by the world, the world is screwing us, that they've cost us jobs and the like, you have the luxury of saying that by not experiencing the other side of the equation. For those of you who believe the cost of American leadership in the world is too great, you've been very lucky that you haven't had to experience the cost of our lack of leadership in the world. And I'm afraid the day is coming, if we continue down this path, where you're going to, and when you get there, you're not going to like it, and it's going to be largely irreversible. Here's what you get that you don't feel right now. You get the greatest exchange rate on planet Earth. The bulk of all world trade is conducted in dollars, and that means when your dollar goes out into the globe to buy something, you get the best rate on it. So your products are cheaper. You get a lot of products that are very cheap. Donald Trump complains about our wipeout of the manufacturing base in this country, but do you really need to buy the T-shirt that's made in the United States when you can get one cheaper from Vietnam and then have money left over to buy something else? J.D. Vance a couple of months ago said the American dream doesn't involve buying cheap toasters. Actually, yeah, it sure as hell does involve buying a cheap toaster from Vietnam so that you have more money to spend on your kids' private education or your kids' college or to buy a better car or to buy a better house. Buying the cheap toaster frees up your resources to buy other stuff. It's not just a mercantilist capitalist equation, though, because where do you put your money? You can put your money to charity. You can put your money to your kids' education. You can put your money to your own house. You can put your money to other things that you have if you buy the cheap toaster instead of the expensive toaster. And we get to buy the cheapest toasters on the planet because we lead the world. Our global interest rates are better here. Go to Great Britain to buy a house. Go to Europe to buy a house. Your interest rate's going to be higher than it is here. Your interest rate here is cheaper than there because the world trades in dollars. The dollar is the reserve currency of planet Earth. Virtually every country on the earth will accept a dollar instead of their own currency because the dollar is so well accepted. China, Russia, Iran, South Africa, Brazil, the BRIC nations, and a number of others are working very hard with a lot of countries to get them to ditch the American currency as the global reserve currency. The global reserve currency means that countries buy American dollars to protect themselves from economic calamity. If they sell their American dollars, that not only devalues the American dollar, but it makes it harder for you to travel the world. It makes it far more expensive for you to travel around the planet. It makes it more expensive for you to get an interest rate. It makes you more expensive to do an exchange rate around the world. All those sorts of things that happen when you get rid of the reserve currency of the United States. We have the American dollar as the reserve currency because we lead the world. Think about SWIFT banking transactions. You know how we're very good at stamping out terrorism around the world? We're very good. We're not perfect. Terror plots still happen, things like that. But the SWIFT exchange, so many bank processing, because we're the world's reserve currency, the dollar is so respected, much of the world transacts its business in dollars, and those transactions flow through the United States, allowing our federal government to snoop on global transactions. And in many cases, we've been able to uncover plots against us and our partners through the SWIFT banking transactions. We've been able to uncover transfers of money that raised red flags. We've been able to uncover global money laundering schemes, global human trafficking efforts, things like that. The reserve currency goes away. Our leadership in the world goes away. The SWIFT system collapses. Countries trade in other ways. They route through China instead. Not only does it make us more vulnerable for national security concerns, it makes us more vulnerable on the world stage. It makes it more expensive for you to travel abroad. We also get great access around the world by being the world leader. You can go anywhere on the planet virtually with very few exceptions, and people are going to treat you well because you are the leader of the world. There was a time when I was a kid living overseas where Terrorism was a big thing, particularly Islamic extremists in the 1980s targeting Americans. Given my dad is Swedish, he's American, but his parents are Swedish. There were times my parents told me, tell people you're Swedish. You got the last name Erickson, tell people you're Swedish. But mostly, you wanted people to know you were an American because it meant something. After World War II, the entire world was in shambles except for us. And the Western world order realigned to put us in charge. And we realigned the Western world order to benefit us. If we decide it's too expensive for us to continue to lead the world, and we step aside, the entire global economic, monetary, and even trade systems realign against us. China's trying to do this. We're making it very easy with these tariffs. Do you think it's expensive right now? You ain't seen nothing yet. Look at Great Britain. Great Britain used to be the largest empire on the planet. The British Empire was so big the sun never set on it. And what they meant by that saying the sun never sets on the British Empire was it controlled so much of the world that it was always sunrise, always daylight somewhere in the world in a territory the British controlled. The British Empire collapsed. Britain is still a developed nation, but it's turned inward on itself. Its inflation is higher than ours. Its banking costs are higher than ours. Its trade costs are higher than ours. All of the costs of doing business are higher for the British than for us because we now lead the world. It used to all benefit them. It used to all benefit them. And now it benefits us. And if you've decided that the costs of global leadership are too high because the military engagements we have, because of the trade deals we have, what have you, you think this is expensive. It's like not understanding the ramifications of a divorce. When you divorce yourself from that, you're going to experience something and you're not going to get back what you had. I hear, for example, the Trump administration says all the time, and Trump supporters say all the time, that, well, we've given up our manufacturing base, so they've screwed us out of good jobs in this country. No, they actually haven't. Our poor in this country are still wealthier than the poor in other countries. That's something that you don't see because you don't travel the world and see it. But poor Americans in Mississippi and in Appalachia are wealthier than the poor in Southeast Asia and even the middle class in Southeast Asia. You say we don't have good jobs in this country. Actually, our jobs have transitioned in this country. No, we don't make T-shirts in this country anymore. We don't. We grow the cotton and export it abroad, and they make the T-shirts. We don't make the TVs in this country anymore. We buy them from abroad. But you know what we make? We make world-class weapon systems. We now build data centers, and we make information. We don't just find information. We create information. We have a services economy because we're an advanced nation. Advanced nations can outsource their manufacturing to other countries. Now, that's not to say there's not some we should have here. We should have pharmaceuticals here. We should have microchips here. We should have things like that here. But do we really need to buy our underwear made in America, our coffee cups, our toasters, our TVs? Do we really need to? Because if so, what you're saying is that you want to pay higher prices for those things because they can't be made as cheaply here as abroad. And once you've started settling into our clothes should be more expensive and our TVs should be more expensive and our homes should be more expensive, you're going to have less money. Even when your wages go up, companies are still going to make a profit, so your wages aren't going to go up as much. You're still going to have less take home once you've bought all these things. Trump supporters talk about the cost of global leadership. I would encourage them to consider the benefits of global leadership. And once you've given up that global leadership, you're not going to get it back, or you're going to be hard to get it back. Don't give up leadership and then realize that was a mistake. And I'm afraid there are a lot of people who are selling this fantasy of we can be so much wealthier and better off if we abandon the world for ourselves. We are, as the wealthiest nation on the planet. You may not feel it, but you are. Congratulations. You live in the wealthiest planet on the earth. China is number 2, and it's behind us significantly. And you don't feel it, and you feel like everyone's taking advantage of you. They're not taking advantage of you. You're richer than them. You may not feel like it because you're looking at other Americans who've gotten ahead, and you're jealous of the other Americans, and you think, why am I not getting ahead? They are. Well, it must be the people abroad. No. It's because of domestic policies here at home, not trade and global policies. It's because the Democrats have screwed you, and even some Republicans have screwed you with policies here at home that protect Goliath and keep David from growing. Those are the policies we should be targeting, not the global economic system that places us at the center of it. We are at the center of the global economic system with spokes going out in directions connecting us to all other countries with all of their stuff flowing here. You break that wheel, you're not going to put it back together again. And Donald Trump seems intent on breaking the wheel, thinking that we'll have something better. You know what comes with a broken wheel? Inertia and lack of progress and friction and high costs. And that's not going to be good for us.
Those who love him, listen to find out what he's going to say next. Those who disagree with him, also listen to see what he's going to say next. It's the Eric Erickson Show.
121 Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. That earlier crash into cab is cleared to the right shoulder. Everything's open. 285 northbound, the outer loop I-20 exit 46. Still slow back toward I-675. And just north of there, you got left lane construction both ways. 285 north and southbound right around Covington Highway exit 43. Better news in Sandy Springs. That crash cleared. 285 westbound, the outer loop, Northside Drive, Powers Ferry Road, exit number 22. Traffic brought to you by Lear Capital. Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA guide at BetterNestEgg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
Tune in to Atlanta's Morning News.
Several families also displaced after another apartment fire.
All your latest news, weather, and traffic.
Even the bridge over 75 is being held.
Tomorrow morning at 5.
Raleigh is now a permanent part of Appalachia High.
Wake up with 95.5 WSB, how Atlanta starts its day.
Breda knows how critical it is to protect the inside of your home, not just the outside, against bugs and critters. Termites, the most destructive pest of all. They literally eat your house. Hey, it's Mark Aram here for Breda Pest Management. I bet your termite company just walks around outside, checks bait stations, and says, hey, you're termite free. But are you? How can they claim that when they haven't even inspected inside? Only Breda protects your home from termites with a complete liquid barrier system, not just those bait stations. And only Breda's early detection process will thoroughly inspect your entire home with advanced infrared cameras. Wow. Breda is so confident they guarantee your protection and will lock in your termite rate for 10 years. Breda Pest Management, they handle bugs and critters like termites. Get started at BREDAPest.com.
Breda, Breda, no need to be afraid of bugs.
For over 25 years, you've counted on All Four Seasons for garage and entry doors. But we also specialize in replacement windows with a lifetime warranty. Hi, I'm Dan Watkins, owner of All Four Seasons Garage and Entry Doors. Enhance your home's energy efficiency and curb appeal with a wide range of quality window options, backed by unparalleled service and craftsmanship. From garage doors to entry doors to windows, for every opening of your home, we've got you covered. When trust matters, trust us. All the number 4 SeasonsGarages.com.
Save money by getting pre-approved for your next auto loan at Coosa Valley Credit Union. We offer the most competitive interest rates in the market, as low as 3.49 APR when you open an account with direct deposit. This is Andy Harris, President of Coosa Valley Credit Union, inviting you to stop in a branch near you. You'll experience kinder banking with real people, not automation. Plus, with 11 locations in Northwest Georgia, we're always local and nearby.
Contact 706-235-8551 for more details. Equal Opportunity Lender.
Hope. It's more than a word. It's a breakthrough in the making. At City of Hope, we're pushing the boundaries of science, targeting cancer at the molecular level, with teams of experts working together to personalize a treatment plan right down to your DNA with unprecedented speed, making every second count, with appointments in as little as 24 hours. City of Hope, advancing cancer care at life-saving speed. Learn more at cityofhope.org.
If your home was built more than 20 years ago, you probably have drafty, outdated single-pane windows.
It's Ted and Jonathan from North Georgia Replacement Windows. If your windows are single-pane, rotting, old, or you simply want that updated look, upgrade to beautiful Infinity from Marvin Fiberglass Windows now.
Experience the difference at your home or in our new Alpharetta showroom.
0% interest available.
Infinity from Marvin, replacement windows, yeah!
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into. And that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard joining MediShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 855-51-BIBLE. That's 855-51-BIBLE. 855-51-BIBLE.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Want to be on the show? Come on, be on the show. Call Eric now at 877-973-7425.
All right, Michael, Jess, the rest of you on the phones, be patient with me. Michael, I'm coming to you at the bottom of the hour. If you can just hang on a few more minutes. I've pretty much said everything I need to say, want to say. Happy to take your phone calls, 877-973-7425. However, there's some breaking news. Directly related to the tariffs, Infinity is announcing that it will pause development and production of the QX50 and QX55 until further notice. The QX50 and 55 now carry a 52% total tariff. That is a 25% automobile tariff plus a 27% tariff that was imposed in March. The QX80 will be hit with a separate 25% tariff. The April incentive programs from Infinity are going to stay unchanged. Infinity is confirming that current showroom inventory is tariff-free, so dealers are being encouraged to get those units sold while they can. This is from Car Dealership Guy, but that's directly related to the tariffs. But here's another one that you should keep in mind. Stellantis, the maker of the Ram pickup truck and Jeeps, says on Thursday, due to the tariffs, it's going to lay off 900 workers at 5 U.S. facilities. It's also pausing production at an assembly plant in Mexico and another in Canada. Here's the thing. The Infinity is directly related to the tariffs. I have a hard time believing Stellantis is. You know, the CEO was ousted last year. They've had all sorts of problems fixing things. I don't really believe that Stellantis' problems are related to the tariffs. But because the announcement was made after the tariffs, the news is reported as well. Because of the tariffs, they're laying off 900 workers and shutting down factories. That's the problem with the tariffs, is the messaging. Because since the tariffs are the only major economic change to happen since Biden left office, everybody can point to the tariffs and say, that's the reason, that's the reason. I don't think that's the case with Stellantis. It is for sure with Infinity. I don't think it is the case with Stellantis, but I'll be in the minority. The media making a big deal out of tariffs already costing people jobs when I don't actually think that's true. You know, Hillsdale has some great classes on economics that maybe everybody in the White House needs to take. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com today, you, my friends, can take classes on politics and philosophy and economics and math and chemistry, religion, literature, you name it. They're all so good. The Constitution 101 class is fantastic. I think members of Congress should be required to take that class. There are video lectures. You do them at your own pace. When you're done, you get a certificate of completion. And, my friends, it costs nothing. You improve your mind, you learn something about a topic you're interested in, and you don't pay a penny. Eric ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. It's a great program from Hillsdale College. Since 1833, Hillsdale has been educating, not indoctrinating Americans. They would love to be able to educate you on a topic you're interested in with some of the best faculty at Hillsdale College. Go to ericforhillsdale.com today, ericforhillsdale.com. Great institution, great programs, great classes, no charge. ericforhillsdale.com.
Live from the Superior Plumbing Studios.
News,
weather,
traffic. 95.5 WSB.
Atlanta's News and Talk.
It is 1:30. Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Cupid. This news sponsored by Ben Hill Renovation. This just in, a student has been caught with a gun at Midtown High School here in Atlanta. The school says the Evolve system flagged the student's book bag, and during a search, the weapon was found. The student was arrested and is facing criminal charges as well as disciplinary action from Atlanta Public Schools. Your weather for today, it's going to be warm. Afternoon highs 86 under partly cloudy skies, says WSP meteorologist Christina Edwards. And it's going to get even hotter as we head towards the weekend. Saturday could be 90 degrees. A Conyers man has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for shooting his girlfriend and killing a man who was trying to help her. The sentence comes after a jury in DeKalb County convicts 54-year-old Clinton Johnson in the shooting in November of 2020. The woman he shot told police her boyfriend had shot her. Johnson killed 30-year-old Rico Weatherly, who was helping the woman look for a new place to live. Prices on pretty much everything from clothing to cars likely to rise following President Trump's tariffs. Karen Travers has more from Washington. She says the administration saying they're looking at the long-term goal.
That's the message from the White House. Short-term pain for long-term gain. We've heard the president talk about short-term disturbances from his tariff policy. The question, though, of course, is how long will those short-term disturbances last, and how bad will it be for American consumers when they get hit with these price increases in the near future?
And President Trump's trade tariffs have begun to reverberate across the national and global economy. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins says she understands some countries are complaining about the tariffs.
I'm really focused on our farmers and our ranchers, and that's what we'll continue to focus on, but it will reach every corner of America as we are restructuring.
As she told reporters outside the White House that President Trump firmly believes the tariffs will bring prosperity back to every corner of the U.S. economy. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says his country will impose counter-auto tariffs in response to President Trump's announcement. And the markets have been struggling all day. They still are. The Dow's down more than 3%, NASDAQ's down more than 5%, and the S&P's in the red down more than 4% here at 132.
There's a new optimism in the air, and we think investors like you might have the best year ever. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. Last year, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Everyday folks from all walks of life have enjoyed 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of small businesses right here at home. If you're a qualified investor and have a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest rates. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. We believe this is going to be a special year and a great year. We've got the projects. Now we need partners like you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. Purchasers must verify their SEC accredited investor status. Securities are not being offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
Men, trouble in the bedroom? Not anymore. Priority Men's Medical Center restores your love life in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Priority Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Priority Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. You'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients get their testosterone checked free. Call 404-885-8885. 404-885-8885. To restore your love life in just one visit, call now. 404-885-8885.
The biggest and best gun shows are the Eastman Gun Shows, and they're coming this weekend to the Clarence Brown Arena in Cartersville. This weekend, Eastman rolls into town with the best selection of guns, knives, hunting rifles, scopes, clips, shotguns, and accessories you've ever seen in one place. Bring your whole family, rain or shine. We have everything for the lovers of the right to bear arms. It's Saturday from 9 to 5 and Sunday from 10 to 4 at the Clarence Brown Arena in Cartersville. Eastman Gun Shows, proud supporters of the Second Amendment.
All right, Alex Williams, how are we looking on the roads?
Travel advisory in DeKalb County, heading up to Spaghetti Junction. Crash 85 northbound, Shallowford Road, exit 93. Multiple left lanes are blocked. Slow back to Claremont. I suggest using the access road or Beaufort Highway to avoid that. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Upwards. Partly cloudy, hot and humid today. High 86.
81 degrees in Midtown. We'll have more news at 2 o'clock. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
He's got the courage to tell you the truth, because the truth is what matters. You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Oh, no, he hung up. Oh, that's disappointing. I wanted to talk to him. I had a caller who waited and waited and waited, and I couldn't get to him, and said I was going to get to him as soon as we came back, and then he had to hang up. I'm sorry. I missed you. It is my fault. There's just been a lot that I had to say. So I'm going to go next to Jess in Houston, Texas. Welcome, sir. How are you?
What's up, Eric? You know, we got to get you on the air here in Houston. It's kind of hard to get the show, man. Got to go stream it online.
I agree completely. I agree. Got to find me a station there that wants to put my genius on.
There we go. Exactly. So I'll have to make up for Michael, I guess. So look, there's a great Frederic Bastiat essay called That Which is Seen and That Which is Unseen. And what we have to understand about policy, I worked on policy for years with Brooke Rollins, who's now the Secretary of Agriculture, who's awesome. And if you look at policy, you know, there's always obvious consequences, but then there's a lot of not obvious consequences. And it's very often the case that politicians will conflate the intent of a policy with the actual result, right? So when we think about, for example, Democrats, they say, well, hey, we're just going to raise the minimum wage and everybody's going to get a higher wage. And then what happens is they don't realize that makes it harder for small businesses to afford to even hire people. So you actually have more unemployment. The problem with some of the tariffs, and I'm kind of in a wait-and-see mode on this. I mean, as a free market economist, I'm generally against tariffs, but I'm going to wait and see what happens with the negotiations. But the problem I have is how they calculated them. Switzerland does not impose any tariffs on the United States except for agriculture, but 99% of the things that we export to Switzerland are tariff-free. But for some reason, we're going to tax Switzerland at 31%, which is higher than the EU that actually does hate us. So I didn't quite understand that. And there are some other countries in there that I'm kind of like, like, why are we tariffing Israel at 17% when Israel just announced they're going to abolish all tariffs on imports from the United States? And Israel's also one of our great allies. So I think there's some questions here about how it's calculated. I'm in wait-and-see mode. But we need to be mindful that every time we have a policy in place, that it's almost never the case that the intent and the results are equally aligned. We have to really look at the actual results of the policy to see what it's going to do. And the tariffs always raise prices. We just know that. So if we could abolish the personal and corporate income taxes, yeah, I mean, I would say, sure, that's a good trade. But I don't see that happening, Eric. And that's kind of my concern is I don't know what this is going to end up looking like as a long-term
so I'm glad
policy,
you said that last part, Jess, because, you know, it's true. Take the last time when Trump imposed tariffs last time, one of the comments made by Larry Kudlow and others was tax cuts first, Trump tariff second is the way to go. Tariffs first, tax cuts later, bad. And this is kind of the same way. If we cut the corporate tax, tariffs would be offset by the corporate tax, and we might not see economic impact. Now, I'm one of those people. You're more of an expert than I am, but my understanding from Milton Friedman and from others is that you don't actually typically have a one-for-one here. So tariffs go up 10%. You don't see a 10% raise in goods. What you might see is they cut production, they cut labor costs, and have other ramifications to avoid passing on 100% of the tariff costs to consumers.
Yeah, it really depends upon competitiveness and the elasticity of demand. I mean, basically, if somebody really, really needs something, or if something is completely crucial, right, like, for example, chips from Taiwan, well, you'll pay whatever you have to pay. if you have to have that. Like we saw in the pandemic, right? When chips from Taiwan were cut off, can't make cars. It's one of the things that Elon was smart about. He relied less on some of those foreign sources, which is why Tesla was able to make more cars during the pandemic than anybody else. But most automakers are still reliant on those chips from Taiwan. And yes, we designed them here, but they are made in Taiwan. TSMC is 20 years ahead of everybody else on chip production. And so while they are building a plant in Arizona, it won't be ready for a couple of years. You know, we rely on them. NVIDIA makes all their chips, which are the AI chips. They're all made in Taiwan. So, you know, when we see things that are necessary, yeah, I mean, you'll probably have a much higher price increase in a market where the margins are higher and there's a little bit more competition. Some of it's going to be borne by the producer and some of it's going to be borne by the consumer. But in the end, you know, I mean, inflation itself is always a monetary phenomenon. This is not inflation. So when people say this is inflationary, it's inflationary effect. It's not actual inflation. That's when you have more money supply. But we have to be mindful that it is an effect that creates a price rise. Now, you mentioned earlier something really important, Eric. It's regulations and it's corporate income taxes and personal income taxes. Like, that's the biggest hit on our economy, more than anything else. The reason why manufacturing left the United States and the reason why the U.S. tried to put all these protectionist tariffs in place and, you know, prevent Nippon Steel and all these things, the reason why that happened in the first place is because decades and decades and decades of Democrats and big government Republicans putting in place huge regulatory burdens on the American people, making it impossible to drill for oil here domestically. You know, here in Texas, we have enough oil for everybody. We don't need oil from anybody else. But like, we've done this to ourselves. So the tariffs are kind of like trying to use we're basically several downstream effects away from the actual cause of the problem. Like, we wouldn't have any of these issues if it weren't for the regulations and the taxes that we already have. So I think if we can get rid of those, I don't care if we have tariffs, because we'd be making a lot more in the United States anyway.
That's so well said. Jess, I got to let you go there. Thanks very much for the phone call. Always great to hear from you. And for those of you who don't know, he actually is an economist. He knows what he's talking about. Let me hit that point just real quick, because it's worth amplifying here. Tariffs are downstream from the actual problem about manufacturing in this country. Again, we don't necessarily need to manufacture everything in this country, because there are always going to be situations where we can manufacture stuff abroad cheaper than we can here. And this isn't a new idea, by the way. This goes back to Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations that many people for quite a long time have read. This is Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. What is prudence in the conduct of every private family can scarce be folly in that of a great kingdom. If a foreign country can supply us with a commodity cheaper than we ourselves can make, better buy it of them with some part of the produce of our own industry, employed in a way in which we have some advantage. In every country, it always is and must be the interest of the great body of the people to buy whatever they want of those who sell it cheapest. The proposition is so very manifest that it seems ridiculous to take any pains to prove it, nor could it ever have been called in question had not the interested sophistry of merchants and manufacturers confounded the common sense of mankind. Their interest is, in this respect, directly opposite that of the great body of people. In other words, people should be able to buy the cheapest good possible wherever, and tariffs impede that. Why is it so much cheaper to buy some stuff abroad than here? There are a lot of reasons, labor costs, things like that, but also the massive regulations that are in this country, the massive litigation costs that are in this country, the massive labor costs that are in this country due in large part to regulation by the government. You have the state government, local government, federal government. Think about some of the manufacturing facilities that are being built in this country now that Donald Trump has had press release on. A lot of those places are not going to be built and get to this country before Donald Trump leaves office, because you got to have the environmental study done. You have to have the surveying done. You have to have the zoning approval done. You have to have the tax abatement plan done. You have to have all those things done before you even level the ground. Then you level the ground. Then you've got more environmental concerns. You've got NIMBY litigation costs. You've got local litigation costs for the zoning and the conflicts there. Then you have to build the plant. When you build the plant, you got to source the materials. You've got to work with the supply chain to build the plant. Then when you build the plant, you got to train the people. You've got high labor costs. You have unionization concerns that could drive up the cost. All of these things come into play. It can take you 5, 6, 7 years to get all that stuff done. And a lot of manufacturers are like, hey, in the meantime, I can go to Vietnam where I can build a factory in a year and a half and employ a lot of people for cheap to build the same stuff. Why would I want to do it in the United States? You start cutting those costs in the United States, you're able to bring stuff home. And by the way, you're still going to pay people more here. The cost will be higher for the product, but not as high with the tariffs. You deregulate, you cut taxes, you provide incentives for businesses to build here, and they will. Not everything has to be made in the United States. There are plenty of things we should be making for cheap abroad, but there are also plenty of things we do want to make here for national security concerns and other issues, and we should be able to do that. But it's oftentimes cheaper for businesses to build abroad because of the regulatory costs and the taxation costs and the labor costs in this country, and a lot of those labor costs do come from regulatory costs. All right, John in Jacksonville, Florida, you're up next. Welcome to the show, John. How are you?
Great, thanks. I don't disagree fundamentally with a lot of what's been said so far, but I'm looking at it from a different angle. I have seen poverty up close by virtue of about 12 medical mission trips to South America, 5 different countries, so I know what you're talking about. I asked the question, why are the poor in America so wealthy? And I think the answer is because people with jobs pay taxes to support them. That's number one. And number two, I would ask you, do you think it's a problem with 40% of the male population in the ideal age group do not participate in the labor force? And as a corollary, do you think it's important for people to have jobs to live as opposed to getting handouts from the government?
Oh, listen, this is actually fundamentally theological for me, John. I expect you weren't expecting me to go in that direction. But, you know, when God created the heavens and the earth and created the Garden of Eden, he put Adam and Eve in the garden and said, work. Work is necessary for Americans. Work is necessary for our souls. Work is necessary for everyone. Work is good. When we get to the new heavens and the new earth, we're not going to be sitting on a cloud playing a harp. We're going to be working. We're going to be tilling the ground. We're going to be getting our hands dirty. We're going to be doing something. When people are deprived of meaningful work, they begin to less reflect an image of God and more reflect an image of the world. So we need jobs for Americans. The question is, how do we get those jobs and what jobs do we do? And also, there are a number of people out there who insist that if they don't have a particular job that they want, that they're not going to work. Now, in this particular case, we have a large number of young men in this country who aren't being productive citizens. That comes from a lot of issues, and it's not really that we've chased labor away to other countries. It has a lot to do with a lot of systemic problems of this country related to education, related to drugs, even related to the coddling of parents of kids and things like that. And then there are a lot of people in this country who have they've taken on this idea that if they can't start out at the top, they're not going to take the job. Nobody wants to spend the rest of their life flipping burgers at McDonald's, for example. But if you go to McDonald's and you start flipping burgers as a kid and you start showing good work ethic, guess what? You might get a college scholarship. You might come back as a manager. You might then become a franchisee and you work your way up the ladder. A lot of people in this country are particularly our young men in this country, a lot of them don't want to take those necessary steps to start at the bottom and work their way up because they were sold this idea that they were special and they should get a good job. Really, you got to go start working. And I would resist the idea that we have deprived people of good jobs in this country because we've moved manufacturing overseas. You know, back in the 1950s and 60s, the parents who worked at the steel mills didn't want their kids to work at the steel mills. They wanted their kids to go off and do something different and better and more productive and less hazardous. And now we're at this weird part of this country where a lot of people are like, we need steel mills back in this country, not just for national security, but young men need some tough task to work. There are plenty of other things they can do. They could also join the military. There are plenty of jobs out there for people to do, though I would also tell you that we actually do have a near full economy. Our labor force participation rate, that was only 62.4%, meaning there are plenty of people sitting on the sidelines who can come back in. It is a little bit of a statistical myth, though, that the massive numbers of people sitting out are the young unemployed men of America. They're actually a lot of the people who are sitting out are the people at or near retirement who in COVID got so much money from the government, they decided they could sit on the sidelines. We disincentivized work during COVID. And that was a bipartisan problem. I'm not going to throw the Democrats under the bus on this one in particular because it was Republicans as well who decided to throw a lot of money at people to sit on the sidelines in a shutdown. And guess what happened? A lot of people got disincentivized from going back to work. We do need to get young people back in the workforce. By the way, you know how the best way to keep a job, and I know it's antithetical to what a lot of conservatives say these days because we all hate wokes in college, but people with a college degree in this country are still more likely to be employed than anyone else in the country. But also, your kid could be a plumber, your kid could be an electrician, your kid could have one of those great mechanical jobs where you don't need a college degree. There are plenty of those still available out there, even with our manufacturing base being maybe in Southeast Asia for making T-shirts and toasters. You still need someone here to fix your car. Those things are still available. We just need to incentivize young men to actually go do those things. But yes, work is a theological issue. We're going to work in the new heavens and the new earth. We got to find good jobs for people here. But what is a good job? It's a job where you should be able to support your family, but it's not necessarily a six-figure job. And a lot of people are like, well, if I can't get maximum amount of money in like the C-suite, I'm not going to go work. Start flipping burgers at McDonald's, show a good work ethic, you're going to work your way up. Between bank collapses with hundreds more teetering on the brink, these situations today with the stock market, the price of gold out there is insane. Well, Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war, you need this report from Swiss America. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and they can educate you on protecting your assets in their report, The Secret War on Cash. Now, it takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save on your retirement and finances. You get your free copy by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The All Out War on Cash includes digital forms of currency, and it's spreading. So read the Secret War on Cash report completely free to my listeners. Just text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. Remember, ERICK. Text 800-289-2646. The All Out War on Cash. It is spreading. You need this report. Text or mention my name when you call or text 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply.
When the truth seems hazy, Eric will clear the way. It's the Eric Erickson Show.
151 Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Big jam on 85 north into DeKalb County. The brake lights find you right at Claremont Road up to this crash where right now they're holding all lanes, trying to clear it out of the left lane at Shallowford Road, exit 93. I think about using that access road or Buford Highway as your alternates. Elsewhere in Cobb County, just cleared up a crash by Truist Park, 75 southbound, right at the ramps to 285. Exit 259, lingering delays back into Marietta. And still jammed up on 400 south out of Buckhead into Midtown with that left lane construction on the ramp to 85 south. Traffic brought to you by Lear Capital. Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA guide at betternestegg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
The Morning Rush Hour.
Looks to be a tanker truck crashed into the median.
Evening Rush Hour.
It is an absolute mess.
And everything in between.
Also, bring the speeds down. The rain is falling on 75 and 575.
Tune in 24/7 with the Triple Team Traffic Center.
Your source for Atlanta's traffic. Brought to you by the Cool Ray Lifetime Parts and Labor Warranty.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Hey folks, it's Belinda. What you have planned this weekend? How about visiting the Lakewood 400 Antiques Market in Cumming, Friday through Sunday this weekend? Grab your spouse or your friends and go on a treasure hunt with over 500 booths. Everything you can imagine from jewelry, collectibles, sports memorabilia, antiques, furniture, handcrafts, and toys. Every aisle and row is a different adventure. Come on out this weekend to the Lakewood 400 Antiques Market, 1321 Atlanta Highway in Cumming. Visit LakewoodAntiques.com.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Are they promising you up to 10% growth per year guaranteed for your retirement income? If not, you need a new financial advisor. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hard-working folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 up front or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't work when you're supposed to be retired. And if any financial advisor tells you it's too good to be true, they simply don't have the options we do. Call Trajan today at 404-390-4000.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Attention men, are you suffering from ED or PE? Here's an important message from Choice Men's Health.
I'm Dr. Katz and I'm the Chief Medical Director at Choice Men's Health. Are you performing the way you want to in the bedroom? If the answer is no and you've tried Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra and were disappointed, then you need to come see us immediately. If you don't see results on the first visit, then there's no charge. Many of our patients have medical conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and prostate problems. I'm happy to say that we have 98% success rate with all our patients. Our customized solutions will allow you to perform within 10 minutes and last an hour and even longer. You can regain your love life and tackle your ED and PE problems. Guys, your partner will never complain again. Our clinic has the most affordable prices, so if you visit other clinics and you're not completely satisfied, then you need to call Choice Men's Health.
Regain your love life regardless of your age or medical history. Choice Men's Health guarantees results on your first visit or you pay nothing. Call now, 404-400-1170. That's 404-400-1170.
WSB Atlanta, WSB FM, and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
At CertaPro Painters, we know that a happy place comes in many colors, like ones that inspire a sense of wonder, or a new flavor that makes life just a little bit sweeter, or one to celebrate those moments that lift you to new heights, at home or at work. We'll make your happy place your own. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
All the news, weather, and traffic you need. 95.5 WSB.
It's the Eric Erickson Show.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program. You know, a buddy of mine just texted me about the T-shirt comparison, making T-shirts in Vietnam as opposed to here. You know, in northwest Georgia, up near Rome, Georgia, I'm on the radio up there. Hi, Rome. I love you guys. And there was a T-shirt manufacturing facility, and it closed. You know what they now have there instead of a T-shirt manufacturing facility? Carpet manufacturing. Leading the world in carpet manufacturing. We went from T-shirts to carpets, which there's a higher technical skill involved in the production of carpet, and so we produce a lot of carpet. We can offload the making of pants and shirts for a more technical, skilled manufacturing, whether it's weapons or even carpet. And we do that. We also produce massive amounts of kaolin for the world, kaolin coating magazines and things like that, paper products and stuff like that. We manufacture a massive amount of that in this country. It's actually more technically difficult to produce things like that, and those are the things we do. We haven't shut down manufacturing in the country. A lot of people have this longing for, the 1950s. We all worked for a unionized job and we had a pension. Those days aren't coming back. And what we've done is, as we become a wealthier country, we've allowed other countries to manufacture the cheaper products, and we make the more technically difficult product to make. And you feel left behind because you see these billionaires, and so you're okay socking it to them. But to some degree, we cut off our nose to spite our face with these sorts of policies, I think, because it's the working class that's going to pay higher prices and be less able to afford the higher prices. The billionaires still going to be able to afford the tariff. It's the working class guy who's not, and you can't exempt people based on income from having to deal with the tariff. So just things you got to consider as we move around. When we come back, though, I want to shift gears. We've got plenty more out there to talk about, including the national security shakeup in the White House. Pete Hegseth shaking up the military. We've got more and more out there. And also in the state of Georgia, they passed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act last night. Hallelujah. God bless you all in the legislature for doing that.
Hey, it's Scott Slade for FGA Roofing. If your home's exterior could use an updated look, or maybe one of your neighbor's designer roofs has caught your eye, and your current roof has started to show its age, then now's the perfect time to check out FGA Roofing for the latest in architectural shingles, timberland shingles, and more. Slate, tile, wood shake, cedar roofs, FGA has them all. FGA Roofing offers 0% financing for 12 months with your good credit. Get the roof you want now and pay over time. Click firstgaroof.com. That's firstgaroof.com.
Need inspiration? Shop Kroger for mouth-watering meals and appetizing ingredients. Our low prices add up to big savings, plus over $600 in digital coupons each week, and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump. At Kroger, you always get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
We've lowered prices. You can save 15% or more on hundreds of items like Thomas Mini Bagels, Campbell's SpaghettiOs, and more. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
News,
weather,
traffic. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
At 2 o'clock, I'm Bill Caiaccio with our top story, tariff turmoil. President Trump's sweeping tariffs sending shockwaves through the stock market today.
It's a lose-lose scenario across the board, and I think that's one of the things that has been underappreciated by financial markets up until yesterday's announcement.
Economist Diane Swank says many investors were caught off guard by the scale of the new tariffs. WSB consumer expert Clark Howard worries about how this will impact the U.S. down the road.
The long-term effect of this is it will significantly harm U.S. competitiveness. We will not be able to effectively compete with other countries.
At this hour, the Dow is down more than 1,300 points. The S&P is down close to 4%. The NASDAQ is down more than 5%. The new tariffs may impact the cost of prescription meds.
A lot of generic prescription drugs come from overseas, so will the tariffs impact what you pay for those drugs? Ira Katz at Little Five Points Pharmacy in Atlanta says it's too early to say, and I asked him if we could possibly see shortages of drugs because of this.
That's a very good question, and we just, again, don't know the answer to that. Back during early COVID, there were definite drug shortages, even a staple drug like amoxicillin.
He says when it comes to the immediate impact, most people have insurance or a prescription card, so you'll just pay your current copay. Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
83 degrees in Atlanta when we could get close to a record high. Meteorologist Christina Edwards has Atlanta's most accurate and dependable forecast coming up. A security system flags a student with a gun at Midtown High School in Atlanta. The school says the Evolve system detected the weapon in the student's book bag. After a search, the gun was found. The student was arrested and faces criminal charges as well as disciplinary action from Atlanta Public Schools. Hurricane season is still a few weeks away, but the first predictions are coming out. Colorado State forecasting 17 named storms.
And while the hurricane season starts on June 1st, historically, it really doesn't ramp up until August. About 95% of your major hurricane activity on average occurs after the 1st of August.
Scientist Phil Klotzbach with Colorado State says they're predicting 9 hurricanes, with 4 of them becoming major, which would be a little less than last year. It's getting more expensive to raise kids. A new Lending Tree survey puts the total cost of raising one child at about $300,000 over 18 years. That's up 25% over the last 2 years. It is now 2:02. This news is sponsored by FGA Roofing. Up next, live team coverage of traffic and weather.
It's happening, guys. Your hair's thinning. The crown's disappearing. Hair loss might have you feeling you've lost your identity. It's Mark Aram here. Thankfully, there's Advanced Hair Simple One-Day Treatment. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for life. I've seen Advanced Hair's incredible results with my own eyes. Get your free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 470-660-HAIR or advancedhair.com.
At Ameris Bank, we're invested in the success of your business. Our local bankers are ready to help you improve your cash flow, optimize your operating accounts, and access financing when you need it. From treasury services and digital banking to loans and lines of credit, we offer tailored solutions to help your business thrive. At Ameris Bank, we're with you. Visit amerisbank.com/withyourbusiness or walk into one of our branches today to get started. Ameris Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All loans subject to credit approval.
This is Scott Slade. Let's talk about how to improve your chances of living a longer, healthier life. For me, it's preventive medicine. My doctor saw one funky number in my lab work that eventually led to a diagnosis early enough so I still had options. You just got to have a medical professional looking at you every so often, especially when we're talking about heart disease, the nation's #1 killer. And that's where virtual imaging comes in. They've got the best CT imaging in the Southeast with 98% accuracy and low radiation, like flying in an airplane. They can detect calcium levels in your arteries and most cancers at the earliest stage. And virtual imaging can scan your brain to see if you're in danger of a tumor, stroke, or even dementia. So don't put this off, especially with this offer from virtual imaging. For a limited time, they're offering you and your spouse a free heart scan. Yes, free with a few minimum requirements. I've done it. Call 404-678-SCAN. That's 404-678-SCAN. Or make an appointment by visiting their website at virtualimagingatl.com.
Window Nation customers have been singing our praises for years. With fast local service and an industry-leading 96% customer satisfaction rating, it's no wonder.
I researched window companies for the last year to see what the average prices were and the quality of work. Window Nation nailed both.
Right now, get 4 windows free with every 4 you buy, plus no interest for 2 years. Hurry, this offer ends soon. Schedule a free estimate now. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION.
It is 2:05, time for live team coverage of traffic and weather. In the 24-hour traffic center, it's Alex Williams.
Better news on I-85 northbound heading up to Spaghetti Junction, 285 here in DeKalb County. That crash cleared. All lanes open. 85 northbound, Shallowford Road, exit 93. Still jammed up out of Buckhead into Midtown, although they're clearing the left lane construction on the 400 southbound ramp to I-85 south. They've cleared the 285 northbound outer loop road work in DeKalb up around Covington Highway. Still got to clear that left lane southbound. That's why you're seeing the brake lights out of Clarkston from Highway 78, the Stone Mountain Freeway. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Epwards. Partly cloudy today, high 86, lows tonight in the mid-60s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high 88. That'll break the record high for tomorrow afternoon. Saturday, a mix of sun and clouds, high 89.
Right now, 81 in Mableton, 83 in Norcross, 80 in Hampton. More news at 2:30, breaking news when it happens. I'm Bill Caiaccio, 95.5 WSB.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson across the nation. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, delighted to have you. Text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, the social media links. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be cooking this weekend. Just so you have it, as we begin this third hour of the program, the Dow is down 1,381 points. The NASDAQ is down 932 points. The S&P 500 down 237 points. Several $1 trillion in American wealth wiped out since 4 p.m. yesterday in 401ks, your IRAs, your pension plans, with the markets down as much as they are. Apple taking a beating. The Magnificent Seven, the so-called major tech stocks, they're all down. You know, household staples are actually doing well. A lot of those things manufactured in this country. And so they're doing well. They think there'll be a respite from tariffs here, but auto manufacturers are hurt. Pretty much every sector of the economy except for household staples is hurt. The household staples are like cleaning supplies and basic foodstuffs, things like that. So your Clorox stock is okay, and your Heinz stock is okay, and your Kraft stock is okay. But everything else in your portfolio pretty much sucks today. We'll see if there's a bottom here. I personally think this is a buying opportunity because the stocks will go back up. Now, there's something I need to talk to you about before I take any more phone calls. I need everyone to remember some very basic history. You know, I've seen this in the last 24 hours with when the economists come out and say tariffs are a bad idea. People say, well, how can we trust the experts? Look at COVID. We couldn't trust the experts. There were some experts who got it right, just not the government experts. And ironically, it's now the government experts saying tariffs are great. It's the outside experts saying they're bad. But you don't have to listen to the experts. Just listen to history. A good study of history and tariffs show you that things probably aren't going to turn out great with these tariffs. My suspicion is if something changes negatively in the economy, Donald Trump drops them, claims he won. All of his supporters say, yes, we got what we wanted, and life goes on, whether he actually got something or not. I think tariffs aren't good. But at the same time, the Trump administration is convinced that we in the 21st century live in different times than the 18th, 19th, or 20th century, and so the tariffs will work this time in ways they did not work in the past, and they want the benefit of the doubt. He's the president. Give you the benefit of the doubt. There are Republicans in Congress who are actually working with Democrats today to try to pass legislation that would kill the tariffs. They probably can't get 2/3 of the House and Senate to agree, therefore probably won't do anything. And we will see. But what you need to remember from history is not just the history of tariffs and how they work or don't work. You need to remember this. There's no such thing as a permanent political majority in this country. In the last 72 hours, we've had people call this program yesterday, today, 2 days ago. I've had people leave comments on my Substack, and they say there's just no way. I mean, even if this doesn't work immediately and people feel some way, there's no way the Democrats are coming back in 2026. Look at how crazy they are. There's no such thing as permanent political majority in this country. Ask Karl Rove how well that went. And in the early 2000s, having seen Republican success in the 2002 midterms, and then George W. Bush winning the popular vote in 2004, Karl Rove and others suggested we may be able to build a permanent Republican majority in this country. Within 2 years, the Democrats controlled the House. They took the Senate. In 2008, they took the White House with Barack Obama after the massive financial meltdown in 2007, 2008. And then the Democrats told themselves there may never be a Republican majority again. Demography is destiny. Black and Hispanic voters, they're shifting to the Democrats. White college-educated voters are shifting to the Democrats. We can fundamentally transform healthcare in this country, and we will win. And then they lost in 2010. In 2014, they lost more. And in 2016, the man they thought could never be elected, got elected president of the United States. In 2020, Republicans convinced themselves the election was stolen, whether you agree or not. The Democrats actually put Joe Biden in the White House. And in 2022, many of us, myself included, thought there would be a Republican wave. It turned out to be Schrodinger's wave. It happened in places you didn't expect. It didn't happen in places you did expect. So it happened in Long Island. It happened in New York. It happened in California. Didn't go over so well with the rest of the nation. And a lot of swing states went Democrat. Joe Biden in the White House was able to hold on in 2022. And the Democrats interpreted that as, well, we can run Joe Biden again in 2024. We don't have to throw him under the bus. And people really do believe the Republican Party is a threat to democracy. And the threat to democracy and the abortion rhetoric are what are going to win it for us. And the Democrats in 2024 ran an entire campaign on Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and abortion is at stake. And they ignored the economy. And you know what? Look what happened. They lost. Now Republicans are like, the Democrats are so screwed up, they're so broken, they're so divided, they're leaderless. There's no way that the Republicans or that the Democrats are going to be able to regain ground in 2026. You know what? Here's a basic rule of American politics. Beyond there's no such thing as a political majority, here's a very basic rule. The winning party has a way of fixing the losing party. Let me say that again. The winning party in American politics has a way of fixing the losing party. In 2008, Barack Obama and the Democrats were convinced there's no such thing as a Republican majority again. Demography is destiny. They're on the right side of history. History bent in their direction. And guess what? The Republicans in 2010 put aside their differences, of which there were many, and trounced the Democrats in midterm elections. No, Mitt Romney did not win in 2012, but he actually gave Barack Obama a run for his money till the end, and Mitt Romney pulling punches at the end is what infuriated enough Republicans to go with Donald Trump in 2016. They wanted someone who wouldn't pull punches. Donald Trump punches. Do not underestimate the ability of Democrats to be resurgent in 26. Because what they will do is they will now make an economic message. Because the Democrats in 24 ran on threats to democracy and abortion, but it's the economy, stupid. Go back to 1990. Now, I'm a student of history. I was too young to vote. I remember the election, though. But in 1990, George H.W. Bush became president in 1988. He ran essentially for Ronald Reagan's third term. Ronald Reagan left office, one of the most popular presidents in American history. George H.W. Bush came into office, oversaw the fall of the Berlin Wall, oversaw the collapse of the Soviet Union, and oversaw the invasion of Kuwait from Iraq, and led a global coalition to invade Iraq. And it was a mental, moral boost for this country because we had gone from Vietnam, where we lost that war, to not really having major wars, to we swept Iraq out of Kuwait quickly within about 14 days. Of the ground war starting. The American military proved to be the most dominant fighting force on planet Earth. It rebuilt our psyche, our military psyche, among other things. And George H.W. Bush became the most popular president in American history after George Washington. Now, that sounds a little wild to say, but if you look at the political polling from 1990, George H.W. Bush was polling around in 1991 after the Iraq War. In 1991, he was polling at about 90%, 89 to 90%. But something had happened before that. George H.W. Bush ran a campaign on Read My Lips, no new taxes, and then agreed to cut a deal with the Democrats to raise taxes. And in 1990, the National Republican Congressional Committee, the NRCC, that runs the House races, the Republicans were doing so bad, they had angered the Republican base so much that Ed Rollins, who was then the executive director of the National Republican Congressional Committee, sent a memo to House Republicans and said, campaign against George H.W. Bush. Campaign against the taxes. Campaign against the tax increases. And here's a funny little thing. If you go back to 1990 and look, the Republicans who sided with George H.W. Bush on the tax increases lost, many of them in primaries. The Republicans who campaigned against the tax increases won their reelections. And then, in a twist of history, the Iraq War happened. George H.W. Bush went up to 90% in popularity, told the NRCC, if you want me to campaign with Republican congressmen in 92, you're going to need to fire Ed Rollins. Ed Rollins lost his job. But after the war, the economy slipped into recession. No major Democrat wanted to run against him. Mario Cuomo of New York was the most popular Democrat in the country at the time, and he decided not to even take a chance on running for president because George H.W. Bush had a 90% popularity rating. Dukakis didn't want a rematch. Paul Tsongas decided he would have a try, senator from Massachusetts. And along comes this guy named Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton had two guys, Paul Begala and James Carville, and they just started pounding on George H.W. Bush is a nice guy, but he's been in D.C. too long. He doesn't know how the real world works, and it's the economy stupid. And it's the economy stupid played out. And the media, very much in the tank for the Democrats, campaigned against George H.W. Bush, saying he's a great world leader, but he's out to lunch, and the economy's suffering, and he doesn't get it because he's been in D.C. too long. And the American people threw George H.W. Bush out of office, a man who at one point had a 90% approval rating. They tossed him out of office. Bill Clinton came in, and the Democrats came in, and you know what they said in the media? The days of the GOP are over. Demography is destiny. Black, Hispanic, working class Americans sided with Bill Clinton. It was the economy stupid. He was bringing the economy together as finally a post-war order. Our last World War II fighting president has now been replaced by the boomer generation, and the country is headed in the right direction. And in 2 years, the Republican Revolution happened, and Newt Gingrich and the GOP swept through Congress, taking Congress for the first time in 40 years. 40 years. 40, not 4, 40 years. There's no such thing as permanence in politics. And the winning party oftentimes fixes the problems of the losing party. In 1992, the Democrats controlled everything. They were living high off the hog. It was the first time they'd had the presidency since Jimmy Carter in 1980. They swept into office. I'll never forget as a kid, you had a bunch of Hollywood celebrities. They were standing at the Lincoln Memorial, and there was a military flyover the day before the inauguration, and you had Rob Reiner and a bunch of other liberals pointing up and said, "That's our military now. Those are our airplanes now." And all these guys who had hated the American military were suddenly cheering on because they thought it was theirs now. And in 2 years, the GOP swept back in. The winning party fixed the problems of the losing party. In 2004, the Democrats were convinced they were going to beat George W. Bush because of the war overseas and the economy. Bush won the popular vote. Within 2 years, the Republicans had fixed the problems of the Democrats, and Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the House. Don't tell yourself it can't happen again. There is some level of epistemic arrogance when a party wins big. And Donald Trump and the GOP did win big in 2024. They got the Senate. They barely took the House, but they got it. They won a lot of state legislatures. They won the presidency. They got the popular vote for the first time since 2002. And the Democrats are in disarray. They're woke. They're awkward. They're authoritarian. They're the authoritarians they're warning us about. They're a little bit weird. They're rather obnoxious. They don't seem to care, and they just got handed a message on a silver platter. And you know what the message is? It's the economy, stupid. If the economy changes, they'll say it's the tariffs' fault. Whether it's the tariffs' fault or not, they'll say the tariffs did this. It's Donald Trump's fault. And you know and I know, the low information voter probably going to believe them. Here's the basic problem with the tariffs, whether I like them or not, I don't, but here's the basic objective problem. They didn't exempt grocery stock items, so groceries that are already inflated because of Joe Biden will now have price increases because of the tariffs. Who do you think is going to get blamed? When gas prices got high because of Joe Biden, Republicans put little Joe Biden stickers on gas pumps that pointed at the price, and underneath it said, "I did that." Democrats are already today circulating the same stickers, but with Donald Trump.
Follow Eric on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Search EW Erickson.
221 Coolray Carrier WSB 24-hour traffic center. Better news out of Buckhead into Midtown. That construction is wrapped up out of the left lane. It's all gone. The 400 southbound ramp to I-85 southbound. Once you get down to 85 southbound, you're on the brakes, though, as you make your way into Midtown, down past North Avenue. In DeKalb County, 285 north, the outer loop, Covington Highway, exit 43. That construction is cleared. And as I speak, they're also clearing it out of the left lane, 285 southbound, the inner loop in the same area. On and off the brakes coming out of Tucker back to La Vista Road. Traffic brought to you by Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Learn more about their support of Common Threads and nutrition education at anthem.com/dream. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the trade name of Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthcare Plan of Georgia, Inc. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
He's the guy at the desk next to you.
Why do you always go after the game show host of The Price is Right?
He's your co-pilot for the ride home.
Don't tell me how to handle my life.
Eric Von Hessler.
Or anyone else.
Today at 3.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Looking for a great dining memory, y'all? Hey, it's Belinda. I love the amazing Southern food and service at Old Vinings Inn. If you haven't been there yet, you're missing out. Nestled in the heart of Vinings, that charming house offers a cozy, upscale, and welcoming atmosphere, perfect for any occasion. Romantic dinner, baby or bridal shower, business dinner, night out with friends. Old Vinings Inn has you covered. Indulge in delectable Southern cuisine, crafted with the freshest ingredients. Savor their signature fried green tomatoes and fried chicken, or delight in the rich flavors of my favorite, shrimp and grits. Everything on the menu is a winner. You thirsty? The curated wine list and handcrafted cocktails are sure to impress. Enjoy all that plus live entertainment and specials at the Attic Bar. Wednesday through Saturday nights. Ready for fun and flavor now, y'all? Open for lunch and brunch Thursday through Sunday and dinner Wednesday through Saturday. Reserve your table or large groups today at Old Vinings Inn.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-575-2798.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-2798. That's 800-575-2798.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Men, trouble in the bedroom? Not anymore. Priority Men's Medical Center restores your love life in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Priority Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Priority Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. You'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients get their testosterone checked free. Call 404-885-8885. 404-885-8885. To restore your love life in just one visit, call now. 404-885-8885.
The reason many of us hate insurance companies is because some of them act like bullies. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I've been dealing with these creatures my whole career. Whether it's a workers' comp claim, an auto accident, or a nursing home or medical mishap, the playbook is often the same: deny and delay. We became the largest injury firm in America for a reason. We fight the bullies. They know who we are, and I know it makes a difference for our clients. Just go to forthepeople.com and see our results and our verdicts after those bullies gave us their final offer. Hiring the wrong firm can be disastrous. Hiring the right firm could substantially increase your settlement. It's easy to get going. Visit forthepeople.com on your phone or computer, or call us on your cell at Pound Law, pound 529. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. forthepeople.com.
Morgan & Morgan Atlanta, 191 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia. Dial Pound Law. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
Your non-stop news source, 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
He may not tell you what you want to hear, but he tells you what you need to hear. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
Greetings, welcome. If you're on the phones, be patient with me. I want to correct the record. I'm assuming the guy emailing me is a troll because his email is White Devil. So maybe a racist. I don't know. I've got no idea. But he says, I recall you were pretty critical of Biden when he said coal miners could learn to code. You're starting to sound like him more than you may realize. I think this guy is listening to somebody else, because my point is that many Americans in manufacturing jobs have already transitioned. I am not an advocate for getting rid of coal miners and making them learn to code, because we actually need coal miners in this country, and we should be propping up those industries. What I'm talking about is recreating industries in this country that are no more, which is the president's vision, to bring a lot of manufacturing back to this country. But the workers who worked in those places have already moved to other jobs. Some of them have retired. Their children have different jobs. And in technology, there's no need for us to rebuild these industries in this country, except to the extent that it can fill a national security role. What Joe Biden wanted to do was for green new energy, drive people out of existing jobs and tell them, well, they can learn to code. But we actually need the people in those industries. We need coal miners in this country. We need oil field workers in this country. We need those people. What we don't need necessarily, however, is where there is no manufacturing facility to suddenly create one and transition people from one job into that job. I don't think this guy quite understands what I'm talking about, and probably hearing some version of some nonsense in his head. Joe Biden actually wanted to cost American workers their jobs. I don't want to cost American workers their jobs. I just see no reason to get American workers to give up the jobs they have for jobs from the 1950s. Now, where you live in a technical society. We need computers, and you can get one from Vision Computers. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com, you can reach out to Vision, have them build a computer for you, be your tech support for you. They have thousands of 5-star reviews. We've got one of their computers in our house, and their service is second to none. In fact, if you ever have a problem, you call a special number, and they answer immediately. In less than 15 seconds, they answer the phone. And they always answer the phone. There's no voicemail there. You get the answers you need. And they can do this for your business as well. If you've got a company and you've already got existing computers, you don't need new computers, but you need tech support, they can manage that for you. $179 a computer for a year. VisionComputers.com. $179 a year. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to VisionComputers.com. Tell them I sent you. You'll save even more money. They can build your computers. You get the service for free if you build a computer with them, or just $179 a year. VisionComputers.com, 404-COMPUTE. They help companies and businesses and individuals all across the country.
Live from the Superior Plumbing Studios.
News,
weather,
traffic. 95.5 WSB.
Atlanta's news and talk.
At 2:30, I'm Bill Caiaccio with our top story. It's a WSB Money update. Stocks tanking on Wall Street after President Trump's tariff announcement. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says it is only temporary.
The long term or even the medium term, you've got to expect the United States of American markets are going to do extremely, extremely well.
But WSB consumer expert Clark Howard worries about the long-term effects.
We're in a worldwide market. We're 6% of the world's population. And to pretend that what we do controls our fate is just wrong.
At this hour, the Dow is down close to 1,400 points. The S&P down more than 4%. The NASDAQ is down over 5% on the day. With cuts coming out of Washington, the head of DeKalb County government announces a spending freeze effective immediately.
We are not facing a crisis today, but the warning signs are clear. And as leaders, it is important that we learn to plan ahead.
DeKalb County CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson signs an executive order to freeze new job creation and external spending. Her plan to boost DeKalb police pay and benefits is already in the budget, so it remains on track. A student is caught with a gun at Midtown High School in Atlanta today. The school says the Evolve system flagged the student's book bag, and during a search, the weapon was found. The student was arrested and faces criminal charges. While Metro Atlanta has near record heat, a deadly storm system is heading east. It's expected to impact parts of Texas all the way to the northeast. At least 6 people died in storms in the south central U.S. It is now 2:32. This news is sponsored by Bread Beckers.
So you're losing your hair and you need a simple solution that works, but you want the best. It's Mark Aram here. Modern technology, top-rated physicians. You want something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Advanced Hair. Advanced Hair's completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to the unmatched results they produce. Receding hairline, bald spot, thinning hair, address them all with a simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with experienced pros. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of breakthrough advanced FUE treatments, and get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one else in Atlanta can offer the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair. Fix your hair loss today, starting with your free consultation, and you'll also get $500 off if you move forward. Call 470-660-HAIR. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. And don't forget to ask about that Advanced Hair Guarantee, 470-660-HAIR or advancedhair.com.
Remodeling your home's exterior requires expertise, experience, and attention to detail. That's what I built my business on. Hi, I'm Scott Nelson, owner of Nelson Exteriors. I'm the siding and windows expert you hear on the Home Fix-It Show, with decades of experience for all things exterior. Windows, siding, painting, roofing, decks, doors, and gutters, all with unmatched quality and craftsmanship. Even the small details are a big deal to us. Get your free estimate, Google Nelson Exteriors.
This is Scott Slade. Let's talk about how to improve your chances of living a longer, healthier life. For me, it's preventive medicine. My doctor saw one funky number in my lab work that eventually led to a diagnosis early enough so I still had options. You just got to have a medical professional looking at you every so often, especially when we're talking about heart disease, the nation's #1 killer. And that's where virtual imaging comes in. They've got the best CT imaging in the Southeast with 98% accuracy and low radiation, like flying in an airplane. They can detect calcium levels in your arteries and most cancers at the earliest stage. And virtual imaging can scan your brain to see if you're in danger of a tumor, stroke, or even dementia. So don't put this off, especially with this offer from virtual imaging. For a limited time, they're offering you and your spouse a free heart scan. Yes, free with a few minimum requirements. I've done it. Call 404-678-SCAN. That's 404-678-SCAN. Or make an appointment by visiting their website at virtualimagingatl.com.
At 2:34, Alex Williams in the traffic center.
Better news in DeKalb County. Roadwork wrapped up both directions, 285 north and southbound around Covington Highway, exit number 43. It's getting slow in Cobb County. We had an earlier crash, 75 southbound at 285. We'll see if anything new is cooking over there because you're slow back through Marietta. If you're traveling through downtown, you jam in at the 85-400 merge, heading southbound into Midtown and downtown. 75-85 south stays slow down to North Avenue. Northbound delays University Avenue to Freedom Parkway. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Upwards. Partly cloudy, hot and humid today. High 86.
81 in Fairburn and Sewanee, 80 in Hiram. More news at 3 o'clock. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Bill Caiaccio, 95.5 WSB.
Smart, fearless, and occasionally funny. You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show.
Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, happy to have you. I want to take Bruce's phone call here before I move on. Bruce, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, doing fine, sir. I really liked your last commentary. It was right on. And
Thank
what
you.
I called to share is I got involved with a woman who wanted oil money, and she wanted to be in the garment business and been overseas. And she told me that seeing the garment plants over there where they do the sewing, there are people outside the plant in a big line to get in the morning and let the last yesterday's workers go in. And there will be 30 to 50 people waiting out there to try and get a job if someone gets fired or falls over dead. And after they finished their day, if they didn't finish work correctly, they had to stay on their own time and correct it. And this woman knew that they were never, ever going to be able to sew clothing as cheap in this country as they did over in Southeast Asia. And it's just amazing because I don't think people in this country understand there are places like that. I was in the service in Korea and saw things that people did to make a living that you just thought, there's nobody in this country will ever do that. And
Yeah,
I think some
look.
of your experience in travel may be able to shed light on that as well.
Yeah, you know, Bruce, I do think that there are a lot of people on both sides live in bubbles, and they don't necessarily, they haven't experienced or seen these things. I mean, it's a reality here that you can make things cheaply in a country abroad that frees up capital of poor and middle class Americans to do other things, even such as take a vacation, that people don't really appreciate. And we don't think in those terms often, and economists do, and none of us are economists. And, you know, I saw a friend of mine this morning. He said the worst thing about what Donald Trump did is he's suddenly making kids who got economics degrees feel important, and that's the worst thing you could do. But it's kind of true. It's kind of true. I want to just real quick here at the end. I got asked in commercial break. Let me explain this one to you. What would I do, Erickson? If you were king for a day, what would you do instead? We've got to deal with this situation. We've got to deal with countries taking advantage of us. So first of all, let's talk about the idea that countries are taking advantage of us. Many of, as I said at the beginning of the show, many of the tariff claims that were made yesterday by the White House aren't actually true. South Korea, for example, has an 8.75% tariff on goods imported to South Korea. However, South Korea has a free trade agreement with the United States, and so 90% of what we import to Korea has a 0% tariff. And do you know what the tariff rate is on the other 10%? 0.79%. 0.79%. Take Switzerland. Jess, the economist, called in earlier, pointed out that we're imposing tariffs on Switzerland. 99% of our products to Switzerland do not actually have a tariff. The 1% of products we export to Switzerland are agriculture products that have a tariff, and that tariff is only about 5%. Take Israel. We are imposing a 17% tariff on Israel. Israel has a 0% tariff on American imports. 0%, except on like 5% of imports. And before Trump made his tariff agreement, Israel's finance minister agreed to get rid of even those tariffs. So we have 0% across the board tariffs on imports into Israel, but now we're sticking them with a 17% tariff. It doesn't actually make a lot of sense. The reason the president is doing this, if you want to make it make sense, is he believes we need to rebuild domestic capacity. And there are places where he is right. Pharmaceuticals, we should repatriate, particularly out of China for antibiotics. That makes a lot of sense. Microchips, we need to get that out of Taiwan as quickly as we can, in large part because if China invades Taiwan, we're sunk on that stuff. We need to get that out of there. There are a lot of things, though, that we don't need to make here. We can ally shore them. Instead of offshoring them, we find a third world country that we want to be allies with for strategic reasons, and we move our manufacturing base there. India is a great example of this. There are certainly things that have to be made here, and there are certainly plenty of things that are made here. But what some people don't understand, and in fact, people emailing me angrily about this, what they don't understand, we need to bring manufacturing. We have manufacturing here. You have this idealized image from TV from the 50s and 60s of people going to the factory and working all day building something, leaving the factory and going home. They still go to the factory. But you know what they're making now? Instead of making the car, they're making the highly technical part, or they're making the highly technical thing. They're making the airplane. They're making the Tesla. They're making the data center. They're making the computers for the data center. They're taking the raw materials from abroad and making them here. I have just south of me, there's a massive Kumho tire facility. One of the largest in the U.S. is here. We're making those high-end tires here for cars in this country. Down the road from me, there's a Hyundai plant. They're making Hyundais here in this country. We are making vehicles in this country. We are making products in this country. We're just making more highly technical products in this country, and we're taking the less technical products and we're moving them offshore. We should not be moving them to China. I'm okay with the tariffs on China. In fact, the tariffs that I think the president got right were the tariffs on the Chinese cheap products. We should be putting tariffs on those things strategically. I just don't think we should be putting a 40+% tariff on things made in Vietnam because we've got to deal with China. So what would I do? I would deregulate. I would cut a lot of the cost of doing business in this country. We're never going to get labor costs down. Here's data. Came up in commercial break. I got CNBC on the big TV in the office, and CNBC was pointing out that in the United States per hour, labor, the average hourly wage for a auto manufacturing employee in this country is $70 an hour. In Mexico, it's $6 an hour. In Canada, it's $20 an hour. It's 69% more expensive to make a car in the United States than it is to make it in Mexico. It is 33% more expensive to make a car in the United States than it is in Canada. And a lot of that is labor costs. $70 wage in the United States compared to a $6 wage in Mexico. There are a lot of poor Americans who need vehicles, and their cost to buy a vehicle is going to go up because of the tariff. You move manufacturing to this country, it's still going to be more expensive. And you say, but wait, they could get a job at the manufacturing facility. Are they going to move? Are they going to pack up, leave their family behind, move to where the manufacturing facility is, and hope to get a job? We could deregulate. We could make it cheaper for factories to build in this country. We could make it cheaper for them to employ people in this country. We could make it cheaper for them to fire people in this country. We could make it cheaper. That would lower costs. It still wouldn't get us down to where Mexico is, $6 an hour, but it would still be able to produce a cheaper vehicle, a cheaper part of this country. Deregulation would be great. Restructuring the tax code would be fantastic. We should get rid of the corporate tax. Get rid of the corporate tax in this country. People pay the corporate tax. Corporations don't actually pay the corporate tax. That's one of the things I think people forget, is that there's no such thing as a tax that any corporation in this country pays. It is paid for by higher prices to the consumers. They pass that on to the consumers, and there's no reason for that. There's no reason for it. We could simplify the tax code. This is Magic Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, talking to Larry Kudlow.
Tell you, the Republicans in the House and Senate are completely united on this mission. We must accomplish the mission, Larry, because the big, beautiful bill is going to get the economy rocket-fueled again. I mean, this is how we're going to get the economy going. It's going to settle the bond markets and the stock market, I believe, because it will show that Congress is serious about reducing debt and the deficits. But also, the reason it will be rocket-fueled to the economy is because all the elements of it. We're going to do American energy dominance again. We're going to secure the border and do those basic things we promised on the campaign trail. But also we're going to ensure we don't have the largest tax increase in U.S. history. And allowing job creators and entrepreneurs and risk takers and companies to know what their tax rate is going forward is a really important part of that.
Yep, completely agree. Completely agree. You streamline the tax code, you give tax cuts, that's great. Yeah, I'll tell you what the message shouldn't be. There's a political site, The Quartering. Let me read you this tweet. You do not need the new iPad. You do not need the new cell phone. You do not need the new video game console. You want them. There's a big difference. And if you look at the people whining about the tariffs, I challenge you to ask them how their lives have been affected in any way. Well, they haven't been yet because the tariff hasn't been imposed, but we know the tariffs are going to apply to groceries. So your coffee price is going to go up. The price of your beer is going to go up. The price of your bananas are going to go up. The price of your out-of-season produce is going to go up. That includes vegetables. That includes produce. That includes your fruit. Those prices are going to go up. You don't need the iPhone. You don't need the cell phone. But, those are also American jobs. Certainly they're made abroad, but Apple employs a whole lot of Americans who oversee those things, and wages are going to go up. But also this idea telling Americans you don't need these things, so stop whining, is not actually a good thing. That's degrowth. That is what the left says. That is a message from the left. The left believes we're too materialistic and it's hurting the environment, and we need to spend less. And now here comes the woke right saying the same thing. Using slightly different words, but you don't need these things. Stop buying these things. You're not going to be impacted by tariffs. You don't want it? Stop buying the coffee. Save your money. Don't buy the big Starbucks. This is the message of the left. You know who was one of the loudest critics of the trade deficit? You know who one of the loudest critics of trade deficits have been in this country? Here, let me play you this. You might recognize this voice. This is one of the loudest critics of trade deficits in American history.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996.
That's Nancy Pelosi from 1996 arguing that trade deficits with China are bad. Now, I got to tell you that I actually agree with her on most favored nation status for China. I remember one of the first letters I ever wrote to anyone was to my member of Congress urging them to reject most favored nation status for China because they were communists. At the time, global leaders were convinced roping China into the World Trade Organization and the like would be good and calm the Chinese communist authoritarian influence. They were very wrong. But Pelosi was upset about trade deficits. It's kind of wild that people on the right are now where Nancy Pelosi was in 1996. Occupy Wall Street today is upset that Donald Trump's the one who imposed the tariffs, but they like the tariffs. I mean, what is happening here? Again, you don't need the experts. You don't need the experts. You need history. And history shows us what typically happens with tariffs. Now, here's the thing. I could be wrong here. I could absolutely be wrong. Maybe everybody else is right. Maybe they're right. Maybe Milton Friedman's wrong. Maybe Adam Smith is wrong. Maybe Thomas Sowell is wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're wrong. Will you acknowledge it, though, that if you're wrong, will you acknowledge it? Because I've got to acknowledge it for the sake of intellectual honesty and the credibility of this program. I got to acknowledge it when I'm wrong. Started this program today and said I was wrong about something yesterday. Are you going to be willing to acknowledge it? I think most of the people who like to hang on to when everyone else is wrong don't like to acknowledge when they're wrong. Will you acknowledge it if you're wrong? If we head into a recession, or will you find an excuse to say, well, it wasn't really that, it was something else? Because the economists, major economists right now, left, right, and center, are all predicting this will slow the economy and put us into a recession, probably. Not guaranteed, but probably. But it will definitely slow economic growth in this country, hurt our portfolios, and hurt jobs in the economy, produce layoffs. Will anybody be willing to admit they were wrong if that happens? Because those are the predictions right now. I don't know. I give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. This is what he wants to do. Let's see how they play out. But I am a student of history. I do have a degree in that. I do know how this has played out in the past. My prediction is it'll play out the same way. The Trump administration says it'll play out differently because times have changed. We're going to find out before the midterms. And it'll either help the GOP or wipe them out. Rand Paul's predicting a wipeout next year because of it. We'll see. Now, what I do know is that bank stocks are kind of down today because they do depend on global trade and interest rates and things like that. But one bank standing firm is Old Glory Bank. They're a conservative bank by conservatives, for conservatives. They would love to have your banking business for yourself or for your business. You go to oldglorybank.com, oldglorybank.com. By the way, I got an email from Old Glory Bank this morning. They are going to start doing scholarships for freshmen in college with good grades and stuff, $10,000 scholarships. They are dedicated to their community and their customers. They're just good people. They are very hands-on with businesses who do business accounts with them. Oldglorybank.com. Oldglorybank.com. You can get your account online with them. Takes less than 8 minutes. That's how I did it. Yeah, I actually am a customer. There's oldglorybank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.
You're at the intersection of politics, news, culture, and current events. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
251 Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Heads up on 85 north toward Norcross. Traffic troopers tell me there's a person changing a tire partially in the right lane, 85 north before Jimmy Carter Boulevard, exit 99. Crash in Bartow County, 75 south below Red Top Mountain Road, exit 285. At least one lane block there. You're stacking up out of Cartersville. Use Highway 41. And 75 north in Cobb County, seeing some brake lights. Not terrible, just on and off the pedal from North Marietta Parkway up to Barrett Parkway, exit number 269 there in Kennesaw. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
The U.S. is investing up to $1 billion to fight the spread of bird flu.
At the top and bottom of every hour.
Traffic congestion around Metro Atlanta continues to cost commuters.
And when it breaks.
The suspect is in critical condition after being struck multiple times.
Check back 3, 4, 5 times a day for the latest.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's breaking news station.
I'm here with Chris Hoffman, the founder of Hoffman Financial Group, to discuss one of the biggest blind spots that people face when saving for retirement. And it's a head scratcher. Chris, how do so many people not know what they're invested in?
That's the biggest flaw that everybody runs into. They think they know what equities they have, they think they know what bonds they have, but they really don't know how those mutual funds or how those index funds are performing in conjunction with one another. So, I would liken this to a big pot of soup, and we're just throwing all the ingredients in the refrigerator in this thing. It's not very good. It's just a mishmash of stuff. And sometimes you like the way it tastes. Sometimes you don't. And when you don't know why. You don't know if you got too much chicken in there or too much vegetables in there or what's going on. And I ask every caller that comes in for an initial consultation, do you know how your portfolio is broken down? And they say, well, I've got, 20 or so options in my 401k, and I just picked 2 of them or 3 of them. I thought I needed some international. I thought I needed some U.S. equities. I thought I needed some bonds. And they're just guessing. So you have to absolutely know what you're invested in, and that's where we will run the 401k portfolio x-ray for you, because that'll break it down. If you're not proficient at investing and don't understand this world, we will walk you through it. Not knowing what you're invested in is a big hindrance to growing and protecting your money. We will run a portfolio x-ray for you and educate you on exactly what's in your portfolio.
Set up a time to get your complimentary portfolio x-ray today. Call the Hoffman Financial Group at 404-737-3858. That's 404-737-3858, or book online at unleashyourmoney.com. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Hoffman Financial Group Incorporated, Georgia Insurance License number 163546.
WSB Atlanta, WSBB FM, and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's news and talk.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-969-7766. That's 800-969-7766.
Paid for by Wesley Financial Group.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's news and talk.
Get the podcast, live stream, email, and social media links by texting Eric to 33777 now.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. So I will, yesterday I made a prediction at the end of the show. I said I didn't think the tariffs were going to have that much stock market fallout. Didn't think they were going to be that big. Well, I was wrong. I'm going to make another prediction, though. I suspect that the tariffs are going to be adjusted. I think we're going to see countries reach out. I think there will be negotiations. I do not think we will have a global 10% tax. It may be a federal judge steps in. It would be kind of be funny. There's this thing that the Supreme Court conservatives have embraced, the major questions doctrine. Major questions have to be answered by the Congress, not by regulators. And while the president has some latitude to impose tariffs, the actual statute that gives the president this power, those tariffs are clearly intended to be in strategic tariffs, not broad tariffs. You may see a federal judge say you can't actually implement this policy. You need congressional approval to do it. But my suspicion is one way or the other, we're not actually going to see the tariffs at the levels through negotiations, a judge or something. The president may be changing his mind after gauging market reaction. Right now he says they're going well, and he predicts $6 to $7 trillion in tariff revenue, which actually isn't possible, and we actually know this based on the trade with these other countries that we can't generate that much money. But nonetheless, I just don't think this is the end of it. I think we're going to see changes come from this administration one way or the other and how they implement it. So we'll see. I've tried to play it straight with you. I don't like them. I do think they're a bad idea, but I at least understand why the president says he's trying to do it, rebuild manufacturing, make us less dependent on the world, things like that. In a globally integrated economy, though, I just don't know where this thing lands. In any event, we can let you guys sort this out tomorrow because I won't be here. I gotta do a college visit with my son. We're going to Samford University in Birmingham tomorrow to check out their architecture program. At the point I got to start vetting colleges with the kids. So I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great day tomorrow. Have a great rest of the weekend, and, well, we'll see what the markets do tomorrow as well. I think it's a time to buy. I definitely bought some Apple stock during commercial break. We'll see how it does tomorrow.
WSB consumer expert Clark Howard.
Got to tell you something, when you shop for groceries, when you shop in retail stores, I got to tell you, the owners of those businesses and the sellers of those groceries, they don't know what to do right now because sales are falling because of all the uncertainty with tariffs and all the rest. And their costs for a lot of the goods have gone up. But what you're going to find is prices are going to be, let's call it irregular. It's going to pay more through the rest of this spring with all the economic uncertainty to shop around and know prices of both goods and groceries when you go out to shop, to know when something is a real deal and when it's not. It's going to be a harder year to be a consumer this year. Our dollars aren't going to go as far, and we're going to have to work harder to get those savings. I'm Clark Howard.
News,
weather,
traffic.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's news and talk.
At 3 o'clock, I'm Bill Caiaccio with our top local story, a new tool for Dunwoody Police to respond to 911 calls. They are the only department in the state using a Flock safety drone. Here's a report, all new at 3 o'clock.
The new police drone from Flock Safety is a game changer, says Dunwoody Police Sergeant Michael Cheek.
It's going to reduce response times, and it's going to make our officers safer.
The high-tech drone is connected to the department's real-time crime center and is anchored atop their headquarters.
It will launch 350 feet in the air, and then once it's 350 feet in the air, we can take control of it and fly it wherever we want.
Cheek says it's already helped them make an arrest. Flock Safety, the maker of the drone, just opened a new facility in Smyrna. Jonathan O'Brien, 95.5 WSB.
84 degrees in Atlanta. You'll need the AC.